but the martyrs.
No. Okay, yeah, okay. So there's a lot of layers here because we're talking about what Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians when he's talking about everyone has their role and everyone has their purposes, but we're also talking about like the body of Christ and that hands shouldn't be feet. We're also talking about the symbolic transposition of the lessons up and downward throughout the layers, but the layers aren't identical. So Christ's crucifixion is a symbolic model, but I'm not going to go out and seek out the government to crucify me on a cross in the middle of the town in order to fulfill the participation.
Right. I mean, there is a proper moment for everything. But yeah, I do agree that we're not supposed to be looking out for we're not looking out to be martyred, but if martyrdom comes, it is what it is.
Yeah. Welcome back, Candace. Hello, Kevin.
Hi.
So like whenever I offered you that story, like is that basically what you're doing? Is like you're just trying to help people that I hadn't quite gotten to, or you're trying to help people like digest stories they don't understand?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot to it. So, like, one of the big things that's happening right now is that people don't understand how stories are constructed in order to convey meaning.
Mm.
And so the applicable nature of storytelling is that I have a belief that life is organized in a story structure.
Mm.
Like God has life set up to be orchestrated like a story is orchestrated.
Right.
And so by learning how story structure works and how storytelling works, you're a lot more attentive to what's going on around you narratively.
Right. Like I was just thinking today, like I was eating and I was in a bit of a rush, or I was making food and I was in a bit of a rush, and it was piping hot. It was the quesadilla, so the tortillas on the both sides were hot, and and I was just like, I need to go, I need to go, and so I bit into it, and I was like chewing, and then all of a sudden, like I just dig right into the side of my cheek, and I'm like, oh, like, like like it's not a good sign, it's not a good sign because you're rushing, and those are little it's like God is reminding you, like it's a little microcosm, and you're like, damn, I really need to slow down, or I'm gonna perpetuate this
Yeah.
in higher levels.
Yeah.
Whenever I was starting the lawnmower, could you hear it at all? Like it was like 10 minutes ago.
Nope.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens because I'm about to start mowing a lawn, so I might have to just mute myself so that y'all can inhabit your spirit peacefully.
Okay.
Are you gonna be in the book club today? Tommy?
Tomorrow?
Isn't it today? Thursday? Or is it not Thursday?
Are you talking about language of creation or?
Language of creation.
Yeah, I thought Randman posted that it was tomorrow.
Randman. Oh, okay. Let me see. I mean, yeah, it's probably on my end that I messed up. Let me see.
But yeah, my thought about sacrifice is that, when the temple veil was torn, it was like a new covenant. Now, circumcision of the heart is the new circumcision. Baptism is the new circumcision. That's death and rebirth is spiritual, and we have to be dead to the world. Live in the world but not of it, and not be of it, and value the pearl of great price. That we have to live as if it gains us nothing it profits us nothing to gain the world but lose our soul. That nothing is more valuable than the heavenly ideas that govern our reality. We don't sacrifice what's higher for what's lower, and we only hold with an open hand anything earthly. And if we're called to choose our life over that, then that's what we do. We never as if the highest truths are not true. So if standing with our principles means losing your job, losing your freedom, losing your life, then that's what you do. And we're all human, so mustering that strength is it's expected that we're going to keep failing and getting up again, but we're supposed to be living out the formation of that image in our souls, constantly forming that and resisting temptation. But you do hear this contrast with, I think you'll usually hear it from Protestants who say, you just have to believe sacrifice, like all forms of sacrifice are no longer necessary. He paid the bill. All sins are forgiven. Sin as much as you want, just believe. And then in heaven you'll get unlimited pleasure. That's what it's all about. But there's something higher than pleasure. There's something worth more than money. There's something worth more than our lives even. And we're lucky we get glimmers of it.
I think I got too far away from my phone.
No.
I had it charging because I wanted it to just be nice and juicy, but I think I hit the limit. Because I think Bluetooth works better when you're in a house. You can get farther. But when you're out in the open, there's just nowhere for the wave to bounce off of.
Huh.
But I don't know, just theory. All right, I'm going to try again. This time, now I have my phone on me. Can you hear that, Tommy?
Nope.
Okay, awesome. That's great. Hey, Tommy.
Yeah.
Do you have any ideas on the structure of the Nephilim and like what's going on? Uh, Basically, what's going on with like the relationship between like temple prostitutes and the divine monarch?
Your mic's kind of muffled. I'm not sure I understood.
I was saying, do you know? Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Do you have any insights on the relationship of like Nephilim being born and the temple prostitutes and the divine monarchs? Like, I think they're. I think the temples basically are you're trying to birth like a Nephilim. I don't know if you have any ideas related to those
Yeah,
themes.
I subscribe to Michael Heiser's work on it because he has what's called a Deuteronomy 32 and a Psalm 82 worldview, where in Deuteronomy 32 it says that amongst the council of gods, God sits above them or something like that. I'll have to look it up, but it sets so Deuteronomy 32 and Psalm 82 both set up this idea that in Genesis with the Nephilim, that the sons of God are a council of divine beings or Elohim, and that they go to the daughters of men and produce the Nephilim, and then from there, you have all of the problems that happen with the Israelites trying to enter into the Promised Land, and so all the wars that happen, all the conflict that the Israelites have in the region is about cleansing the Nephilim.
Mm.
Yeah, that's the one that Michael Heiser's work makes the most sense to me. It's also why Paul in 2 Corinthians, I think it's 2 Corinthians, talks about women wearing head coverings, and it's for because of the angels. There's a couple of times where Paul seems to allude that he has the same worldview about the Nephilim, the Deuteronomy 32 and Psalm 82.
So,
All right, Candace, you want to talk about that little commercial?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
You said how much of this is true, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So what did you mean by that?
I, I kind of meant what I said. Like, how much of that story in the advertising? Because it's actually not an ad. It's actually a really well structured story.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do this. Let's go over the story real quick. So how does it start?
It's like it was a few days ago, so I have to think. It was like him and his friends at the restaurant or something.
Yep. What are they talking about?
Well, I have to watch it again, but I can't remember. It's like, yeah, remind me, refresh my memory.
Okay. So they're sitting at the pub or the restaurant, and it through the conversation, it sounds like his wife had died, and he said, "I'm never going to find anybody else." And his friends are like, "Well, you got to move on." And he said, "Well, she said the only person that I could ever marry if she passed was Kiera Knightley." And so one of the friends, the lady friend, was like, "Yeah, okay, Kiera Knightley, whatever." And then the next scene, he's in the grocery store, and what happens?
Oh yeah, and they're like both buying the same cheese.
Yeah, who is it?
And Kiera Knightley.
It's Keira Knightley. Yeah. But it's not. So it's not even Keira Knightley playing a character. It's Keira Knightley playing Keira Knightley. So,
Yeah.
and then what? So what does he do?
I don't know, like strikes up a conversation or something.
Yeah, but how hard was it to do that?
I can't remember exactly how it happened. I'm like
He struggled. He
last
struggled
week.
to work up the heat, huh?
I'm like, I watched it last week, so I can't remember all the details.
Okay, so he strikes up. He has to build the courage to like ask her. And you
Mhm.
remember he said all of the true things because he said, I know I know it's probably because I'm me and you're Kiera Knightley, but if do you think that maybe like we could? And she like interrupts him and says, "Yes, how about Tuesday?"
Okay.
But that whole section in the grocery store, the interaction, like when I'm asking, is this true? I'm thinking like the interactions that they're having were very fairy tale like. We see those sorts of things happen in Beauty and the Beast, and we read about them in like a whole bunch of different fairy tales about like boy meets girl, and so how much of that stuff was true? You might have to go watch it, Candace, to refresh your memory, because I'm getting into the details.
Yeah. I mean, I remember they go and they make like some food together. Or okay. Yeah, just all the little scenes. Like they're walking down the street and yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how
But
much of the story that you remember is true?
I mean, I guess I don't understand what the question is. Like, true. Yeah, I don't understand.
I mean,
Is it all made up?
true, like factually true, or
See, I'm not sure there's a difference.
I mean, it seemed like a plausible something.
Okay. We can stick with plausible for a second. What was plausible about it?
Well, just like that's kind of how things happen sometimes, or they could, I don't know.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. So it's plausible.
Okay, what are the circumstances that make it not plausible?
Well, if she would have brushed him off,
Oh, okay.
seems
Yeah.
unlikely.
You said it's unlikely?
It seems unlikely that the one person that he's allowed to marry, that he would ever encounter her, and that she there'd be nothing to talk about. So all stories
Yeah.
are things that are unlikely and notable.
Okay, but unlikely doesn't mean impossible.
Right.
So when I asked about plausibility, Candace, you said that it could happen a different way. What would? So let me refine my question.
Yeah.
What in the story would have to happen to make it happen another way, not just having it be written, but like if Kiera Knightley had said no, what would that say about the story? What would the story be conveying if Kiera Knightley had just said no?
That the world is not enchanted.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. But the no answer is expected.
Yeah.
Which one's more satisfying? The version where Kiera Knightley says no, or the version where Kiera Knightley says yes?
It's the yes one.
Well, okay, why?
Because you don't expect it. Because, yeah.
Okay, but also Kiera Knightley turning into a werewolf and eating him would have also been unexpected.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it's because the thing is the thing he wanted, you know? And so.
Feels like justice for him. It's
Oh.
it's as if he's watched over by someone that loves him and what's
Yeah.
best for him or something.
Yeah. Okay, you
Yeah.
can say that, but doesn't that imply that Kiera Knightley's being manipulated by his dead wife? Is it a better story to think that Kiera Knightley actually liked the guy, or is it a better story that the guy's husband put a magic spell on Kiera Knightley so that he would be able to live with Kiera Knightley?
It's better that she just likes him.
It's better that she just likes him. How come? Well, hold on, Candace. It's Kiera Knightley.
So?
Why didn't they just use any girl?
Because that's the impossible girl, you know?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Highly desirable and desired by many men, I guess.
Why would Kiera Knightley say yes?
Because maybe she's human.
Because she's trying to kill him. I think it's interesting. I mean, I don't know. I haven't watched it, and I'm also half kind of paying attention because the lawnmower's loud. But like Keira Knightley, like she's the one who kind of subverted what the left media wanted her to say, which is like because like they were like poking and prodding at her.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go watch it. You're gonna have to go watch it because we're just talking about the story contained. It's all it is a commercial, like a Christmas fairy tale that's trying to be an advertisement.
So you don't think that like choosing
there's no-
Keira Knightley?
There's no meta information in the story at all. That's what makes it so great.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Carry on.
yeah. Because they could have used the point isn't that it's Keira Knightley. The point is that it's a celebrity, right?
Yeah.
Because the story is guy loses wife, and you start. What you do is you imagine a scenario, and it's not even hard to imagine a scenario where him and his now dead wife were like sitting around the table or at the couch, and one of them turns to the other, and it's probably his wife who says, "If I die, who would be the top girl that you would be willing to marry?" And then they go back and forth, and they each have their list. Like, okay, well, if I die, you can only marry this celebrity, right? The scenario plays out in your head, in your imagination. So it could have been any celebrity. The crux of the story is that the celebrity said yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why?
the point of the wife saying, "Oh, you can marry that person," because it's never going to happen. So she's safe there.
Exactly, and then it happens. But why did Kira say yes?
Why does anybody say yes?
That is the question. That's the question. Why does anybody say yes?
Because she liked him.
Yeah,
Sure,
okay.
yep.
And that's okay. That's the subversion. The subversion, and Candace said it earlier, that because Keira Knightley's a human, yes, we forget. We forget. See, what it is they took this person with celebrity, this person who was in all these super famous movies like Pirates and Crime and Punishment. I think that was what it was. Anyway, oh, that's it, Pride and Prejudice. I knew it was a two-named movie. Yeah, Crime and Punishment is something else. Okay, anyway. So what they did was they're saying you have this expectation of Kiera Knightley as this celebrity, of somebody who is above this guy.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing: is they surprised you before even saying anything, because Kiera Knightley's in a supermarket buying the same thing that he's buying.
Mm-hmm.
If Kiera Knightley was the celebrity that we think she is, she wouldn't even be in the supermarket.
Mm-hmm.
So in this story, they're already setting you up to be like, oh, Kiera Knightley isn't as high up as we think she is, because she's in the supermarket, the normal supermarket, buying the same food as a normal guy.
Yeah.
Other than the yes that Kiera Knightley, other than Kiera Knightley's yes, what are indications that she's interested in him?
Just how she's looking at him, smiling. I mean,
Yeah. Which one comes first, the body language or the vocals?
the body language.
The body language. Yeah.
Yeah.
This pattern is put in a lot of stories that are like this. It's put in Beauty and the Beast. It's even part of a song in Beauty and the Beast. It's in, I mean, pretty much every Disney movie, it has this, where
Mm-hmm.
main character guy stumbles upon the woman presents body language, and then they start talking. But the guy gets interested at the body language first. That's what lets his guard down. So then they have their like date night, right? Kiera, and going back to the commercial with Kiera Knightley and Joe have their date night, and how does that go?
It was great.
It was great. It was perfect. No problems until what happens?
Then he like bakes a pie and takes it to her.
No. Before that, what makes him want to bake? Okay, before we get there, something
I forget.
happens, and he sees something, and he rushes home.
Oh, I forget.
There's a
Rewind.
present on a coffee table, and it's got somebody's name on it, and the name is Mark. What does Joe think Mark is?
Like a boyfriend or something?
Yeah, competition.
Mm-hmm.
He sees the name Mark on the present, and he's like, oh, there's another guy. I'm competing. And so he goes back to the restaurant with his friends. Do you remember what he says?
No, I need to go watch it again.
He says, what could I possibly have that Mark isn't providing? Like, he's sulking because everybody is, you have this preconceived notion about Joe by looking at him. His hair is not like well put together. He's kind of a sad looking guy. And so when he goes to the bar, he's like, what could I possibly have that Mark doesn't have? And you're like, well, that's because his friends even do it. His friends give the face of like, you know what, that's true. You're not actually a competitor there, guy. If there's another guy with Kiera Knightley, that guy's gonna win. So then he's at his home and he's talking to his mom. And what does mom say to him?
I like forgot this whole part.
Oh my goodness, Candace.
Nice.
It was a commercial.
I know.
Mom says, well, you should make her. No, Joe says, well, what can I possibly do to like prove that I love her? And Mom says, well, you should make her some food. And Joe says, oh, Mom, I'm trying to prove that I love her. And Mom says, but making people food is love.
Mm.
And so then Joe gets up in a fit of inspiration. And he starts making a pie. And on it says, I love you. So then he goes back to Kiera's house. And what happens?
And then, like, her brother answers the door.
But we don't know it's the brother yet. So Kiera answers and he presents the pie, and the guy comes around the corner.
And then the guy comes up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so Joe's like, there is another guy, and he's attractive.
Yeah.
And he's fit. He's put together. So then he starts walking away, and then Kiera chases him. And then that's when you find out that that's her brother. And then what happens?
And then happily ever after.
Happily ever after. So is it true?
Yes.
Is it?
I don't know.
Oh.
It's gotta be.
Hey, that's exactly what the story makes people feel. Is that it has to be true. Something in us says that that's the way things should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, please tell me it's.
Well, the problem is that it's not always true for various reasons, but we want it to be true.
Yeah.
And that wanting to be true met with, I mean, I cannot I can't express my shock enough when I found it. It's just an advertisement. But there's nothing, it's not an advertisement. It's actually a perfectly well-constructed story, and it's enchanting. Because what it does is it talks to that ought inside us, that it should be this way.
Yeah.
But that's what all good stories do, is what this commercial did.
But why do we think it should be that way? Because it hardly ever is.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. It hardly ever is now.
Well, did it used to be? When did it stop being that way?
Well, if you go back and look at old celebrity photos, like black and white era, 30s, 40s, 50s, and you look at celebrity women, and the men that they choose, you'll see that, hey, these are just guys. These are just dudes. They're amazing. The women are amazing. Like, they're Kiera Knightley. But these dudes are just dudes. Something happened with Hollywood, and it trickled down in society that disenchanted and perversely enchanted everything.
I wonder if this is what.
Go ahead.
Finish.
No, you go.
Well, I was just gonna say, I wonder if this is what me and my son were talking about the other day. So he's a senior, and he's always talking about these. Well, okay. I know it's not like the initial real black pill, but I guess there's these TikToks or something where people black pill each other. You guys probably know what I'm talking about. Like,
yeah.
Just so they say it's like, oh, just because they look better, they're obviously gonna get the girl or something,
Yeah.
And I was like, I keep trying to tell him, I'm like, that's not always true. I'm like, sometimes somebody's like really attractive, but when you get to know them, they're like less attractive because their personality sucks, And so we were like going through our yearbooks. I like got my yearbook and he got his yearbook, you know, and we were like, who do you think's the most popular, you know, or whatever, like, you know, just based off the look, you know, and it just, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good exercise. Because it's talking exactly what the ad is talking about with Kiera Knightley. It's like, oh, you think Kiera Knightley's special. But guess what? Kiera Knightley goes to the same grocery store you do. She buys the same stuff you do. And guess what? She likes some sad-looking guy. She's not interested in Brad Pitt. She just wants a guy, right? It's like, so what element in the story isn't in our reality right now?
The belief that that could even be true. I don't know.
Okay, yes, yeah. So we don't even believe that the thing is possible.
At least my boys don't.
Yeah, I think that
Yep.
there's like a perverse enchantment in our and that probably even affects celebrities. Like, oh, I'm a celebrity, I should only date celebrities.
Yeah.
I'm better than these people. It's like, no,
often,
you might. It's very likely that you're worse than the average person.
Yeah.
I need to show this to my boys because just last year we watched Pirates of the Caribbean. Like that was like I guess the first time they've seen it. And my one son, this one that I was talking to, he like loved it because of Kiera Knightley. He loved Pirates. He was like, let's watch the next one. So I gotta show it to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, like my boys are so obsessed. They're so obsessed with like grooming themselves. I'm like, you guys, stop it. You know?
no, I don't know. Well, what do you mean? Why do they do it?
Because they think like that is what matters, you know? And so like they're trying to like optimize, you know? Like
why do they think that?
Because of TikTok or whatever, like all these dumb things.
But is it guys on TikTok or girls on TikTok?
It's sorry. Hold on. It's both.
Okay.
Oh, there he is. There he is. He just got home.
It's this superficial culture.
Yeah. How often? Oh.
Sorry. I just have to go outside. My dogs are crazy.
Yeah, but how often do guys experience girls who act like Kiera Knightley does in the supermarket?
I don't know. Probably not very often.
Not very often. It's not often.
Yeah.
So that's what's hard. The difficulty is that guys are not wanting a presentation the way that girls are thinking about it. All guys want is to see like a Kiera Knightley, not Kiera Knightley, but a girl doing what Kiera Knightley did in the supermarket. It's subtle looks, it's genuine smile. It's also the look back over the shoulder when she's pushing the cart away. Yeah, like all those elements are in there. They don't exist in the wild.
Because in the current modern culture, there's no such thing as spirit. It doesn't matter what's inside you, it matters what you appear to be.
Yeah, the problem is that it doesn't even exist in Christian culture.
Yeah.
And I think the largest problem is that like you were saying, Candace, is that the information is coming from TikTok and not from stories like. It's so funny that I have to say this. It's not coming from stories like the advertisement or like Beauty and the Beast or stories. And because it's not observed anymore, you don't see that commercial happening in the wild. Like you don't see the normal guy flirting with the Kiera Knightleys in the supermarket anymore. So you don't observe it in reality, and you're not getting it from the stories. And so all you're left with is TikTok.
Yes. Yes. The armpit of culture.
What? Okay. I was like, what about armpits?
I would have gone to a different body part, but keeping it clean, I like.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a fun ad. Very clever.
What are they selling, and how can I buy it?
I think it's just a food site where you buy like ingredients for food for cooking and stuff. I think that's all it was. Because
Did I
Yeah, it could have
did I
been
meet
like
Keira
was
Knightley
it?
at their site?
Yeah,
Does she
probably.
shop there?
She shops on
I
the
don't know.
site. You'll meet her.
Yeah.
Yeah, we swear this is her that you're chatting with. She's the checkout agent spot. It's not a bot.
Oh.
So story structure wise, the reason why this thing is perfectly structured, not just because of the content, but because of the order that it goes in. It tells you in the first scene or the first act what the story is going to be about. So in the restaurant, when they're all together, all the information you need to believe the story is in it. Guy's wife died. They had a conversation. She said the only woman that he could marry when she was gone was Kiera Knightley, and nobody believes that it's going to be Kiera Knightley.
Mhm.
The whole story is they're not hiding it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They're telling you blatantly, here's what the story's going to be about.
Yeah.
And then Act 2 is the 3-act structure is broken up into Act 1 is your proposal. You're proposing an idea or something that should be true. Act 2 is your argument, where you try and prove that what you're saying is true. So Act 2 in the story is from the grocery store to the point where he finds out that, or he finds Mark's name on the present. That whole thing is Act 2, because turns out he could fall in love with Kiera Knightley, and then he did fall in love with Kiera Knightley, and Kiera Knightley seemed to fall in love with him. So Act 2 is finished by arguing the proposal, and Act 3 is the conclusion, the therefore, where they live happily ever after, and it turns out Mark is just a brother. Yeah, so it's a perfectly structured. There's no distracting information in it. There's like Filch's cat was talking about all the political meta story, is that there isn't any of that in it. It's all stripped away, and it's just the story elements.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I gotta go off mic for a second. I'll be back in like 3 minutes.
Okay.
Man, he's really putting you through the ringer, Candace. I didn't remember any of that stuff either.
Oh, that makes me feel better. I mean, I know I kind of have a bad memory, but
I was going to ask him how many times he watched it.
I know. I'm like, what the? I just watched it once.
He was teaching a college class on the video.
He studied it. Yes.
Yeah, he looked very closely. Clearly.
I mean, it really is. It's clever.
Yeah, no, it's a great story. There's not enough of that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Wholesome
Mm-hmm.
stuff, like
Yeah.
proper values, you know?
Well, I guess there is on like Hallmark videos, Hallmark movies. Do you ever watch those?
I get the drift, but I don't know if I've ever watched one. Is there a famous one I should know? I would know.
No, they're kind of like their own armpit genre,
Mm,
but you know,
mm.
so it's sad
It's a
that
little
that
bit,
happens in there, but like it's kind of like the same thing happens every time, right?
yeah, it's a little cheesy or something, right?
Yeah, there's like so cheesy and
We
oh,
should
this
try to
person.
analyze
Yeah, we should analyze one of
what,
those.
you know what I'm saying? We should try to figure out what's the difference between something that's cheesy and something that resonates.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's almost like this commercial was like a Hallmark movie, but it was actually well done, you know? Like you said, like
Yeah,
believable. The Hallmark ones are like, like you roll your eyes. And
yeah.
it's always like some like well, here's what's funny too. And don't this probably sounds rude, but the girls are always well, a lot of times the girls will be like average looking and then the boys are like beautiful, you know? And so
Hmm.
I'm like, what? That's like doesn't, you know.
Does that
So
mean
that also
it's
doesn't
marketed
it's
for
also
women?
what?
Does that mean it's marketed to women?
It is marketed to women for sure.
Back. Let's talk about the cheese.
Okay, hit us
Did you
hit us
hear
with your
it?
wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah, I just couldn't talk. I was listening the whole time.
Okay.
Okay,
So
so what's
yeah,
the difference
we were talking
between?
about Hallmark.
Well, okay, so with studying story, you want to do a contrast. Why wasn't the ad cheesy?
Yeah, that's the question.
More believable?
Yeah, okay. That's a really good way to say it. It's more believable, but
Well, maybe it's because in a Hallmark movie, like everything is perfect, you know? Everybody's little outfit has like it's the exact perfect holiday outfit, you know, with the scarf and
yeah.
the boots, you know?
Formulaic.
And then like every little nook of their house is decorated. It's always Christmas, you know? It's always Christmas in the Hallmark movies.
Uh-huh. Okay, so both have elements of perfection, but they're in
Mhm.
different realms.
Mhm.
Joe running into Kiera Knightley at the supermarket, falling in love with Kiera Knightley. Too perfect. It's too perfect.
Yeah.
But it's not cheesy.
Oh, why?
Yet, in a Hallmark movie, perfect clothes, perfect house, perfect decorations, perfect Christmas tree, perfect Christmas wrapping, perfect guy wearing the perfect clothes, perfect job, perfect friends, maybe a little quirky and annoying at times, but perfect friends, perfect
Mhm.
family, perfect. Okay, where are the two perfections? Why are the two perfections different?
One is more on the surface, and one is like cosmic justice.
Bingo. That's exactly what it is.
Wait, what? Say that again? I don't understand.
It's like one is materially perfect and one is spiritually perfect.
Ah, okay.
One speaks to that deeply held ought, and one speaks to the visual.
Mm.
If you notice in the ad, they did not make Kiera Knightley movie screen attractive.
Yeah, she was wearing just ordinary clothes.
Yeah. She didn't have a lot of makeup on. Her hair wasn't done in a superb fashion.
Yeah.
Yet, in a Hallmark movie, it's exactly the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
All the visuals are cranked to 11, and the personalities and the story is dropped to a -4.
They just use a formula and they pump it out, and they don't put any effort into it.
Yeah.
They're all the same.
What would you do to make the advertisement with Kiera Knightley a Hallmark movie?
Well, the guy's got to be handsome, you know?
Yep.
No, and then he's going to say, no one will ever
you-
love me.
Yep. Who would you cast?
Brad Pitt, and
guy
then
who was her brother.
Yes, you would cast the guy who played the brother.
and then she would be singing at a concert, or she'd be on stage at the award show, and she would spot him out of the crowd. You're the most handsome person I've ever seen. I'm in love with you.
Yeah.
Now, the ad was only 4 minutes long. You got to put stuff in a Hallmark movie to make it last an hour and a half.
Filler.
So we've got to give Kiera Knightley a friend. Well, actually, we got to give her 2 friends. We got to give her one friend that's like, ooh, you don't want to date that guy. And you got to give her the friend that's like, oh, I don't know, just date whoever you want. Right? And these friends,
Or the other
take
friends.
up. Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
the friends have to take up about 15 minutes of the movie, going back and forth talking about backstory that doesn't matter. Now,
Yeah.
we have the same kind of element in the ad, but we have it better. Joe's has 2 friends. But the 2 friends don't take up screen time.
Yeah. They just get the story told.
Uh-huh.
It's funny, eh? There's more substance in the 4-minute commercial than in a 2-hour Hallmark.
I know, I was shocked by it.
It's true. I like this even more now. Like whoever worked on this commercial is pretty smart.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's the other thing is you can see this in movies. The only time you're going to get a movie nowadays that has any like depth or go ahead.
Yeah. I'm just about done. 10 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, he's not talking to me.
Oh, he's
if you look at movies, movies that have a really good story structure to them and a plot are never one movie anymore.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
It's going to be a 2-parter. It's going to be a trilogy or a series or something like that. Nowadays, they'll make it a Netflix series or an Amazon Prime series.
Yeah.
But that's because they don't know how to get rid of all the extra junk, like that's in a Hallmark movie. Because whoever did this ad did just that. They took the best parts of the Hallmark movie, and they figured out how to get rid of all the junk. And that's what would happen with most modern day movies is that you get rid of all the junk and it's going to be a 4-minute story.
For
But
real?
yeah, that's how
fucking
stories. But that's how stories used to be.
Okay.
Stories before TV and radio were 4-minute things that you sit around as a family or around the campfire, and you'd tell a story within like 4 minutes.
No way. I swear. They got to take. I feel like some of them still took days. You know? Like Martin Shaw says he takes days to tell stories.
Well,
Sometimes.
stories, multiple stories.
No, a story. Like he'll tell a story over like 3 days or something.
Well, I would like to hear that story.
I know. I think it depends on. I mean, it's the same thing though. You can stretch it out or you can condense it. You know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It depends how much substance there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's amazing. If you can come up with a story that has 3 days of substance, you should be a professional storyteller.
Yeah. But here's why I said what I said. It's because if I say the phrase "slow and steady wins the race," where's that from?
The turtle, the
Tortoise
tortoise
and
and
the
the
hare.
hare.
When was the last time you heard that story?
A
In a minute.
long time ago.
It's a long time ago. How much of the details do you remember?
All of them. I
All
don't
of them. Yeah, probably all of them, because there's not a lot of elements to it.
Yeah.
Basically, you could make so the basic story is tortoise and hare decide to have a race to see who's the fastest. Race day comes, the gunshot fires, and the race begins. And the hare darts off into the horizon. And throughout the race, the hare is going to stop at various places to do nothing and just relax. And eventually, the hare gets distracted and forgets that he's racing, and the turtle beats him. Now, within that story, you can take as much time as you want to describe how distracted the hare is, but that's the story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the ad. It's like less than 4 minutes to tell the story if you just told the story. And somehow those stories get stuck in our DNA and our culture that we can hear it like a couple of times when we're kids and remember it for the rest of our lives.
Oh. We've been catching up on Stranger Things, and I'm trying to think how you'd condense that story down.
Yeah.
Do you guys watch that at all?
No, I haven't started it, no.
Because they're coming out with the
Did we?
5th season next week.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right, so what do we think so far?
I'm going to share that with my boys.
Okay.
Kiera Knightley commercial. I think
Does it spark your curiosity about other stories? Like, are there other things about stories that kind of come to mind? Doesn't even have to be about the commercial. It could just be about like when we were talking about cheese, like cheesiness.
Yeah.
Why do they call it cheese?
I don't know. I actually don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
I think it is interesting.
because of smell, and it makes you have the same face when you smell like a really bad cheese.
Yeah, it could be.
Maybe so. You're like, ugh.
Uh-huh.
Stinks. It's so obvious.
Mm.
Did you ever think about why Pinocchio has a long nose?
I know.
No.
When he lies? Because he's making it obvious. It's like he's an obvious liar. Everybody knows it except him, you know? It's like
Oh,
Yeah.
stick out like a sore thumb.
wasn't that an
Mhm.
old phrase? Is like it's as obvious as the nose on your face? Isn't that a phrase?
I've heard that. Yeah.
Oh.
Imagine how more obvious it is when it sticks out. And the nose.
It isn't. I was gonna say,
Pinocchio's long nose is like devil's horns too. Go ahead.
oh, devil's horns. It is interesting to me, just like, how it is the same. It is like the same thing as these dumb Hallmark movies, but like they did it so well, you know? So that's really curious to me. Cause okay, I don't like to watch Hallmark movies, but last year I feel like I watched like 2 of them. They like sucked us in, you know? And there's like a part of you that wants to like it, you know? So, yeah. But then it always is, you're always afterwards, you're like, ah, why did I waste my night? You know?
Yeah, yeah.
And you always know the exact storyline. It is. They're like the same. I don't know how I even know the storyline because I don't watch them, you know, but it's like the same. It's like the James Bond, you know? I
Yeah.
I summed up the James Bond movies once. I'm like, it's always like this. There's a girl at the beginning that's just like the throwaway whore. And then there's the evil girl in the middle, and then there's the good girl at the end. You know? That's James
Mm-hmm.
Bond.
Yep.
Y'all's description of the Hallmark movies sounds like sin.
Yeah. Well, what do you see, Tommy?
Empty.
Because you have the lens
See where?
in the commercial, like, you know, kind of what.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we pretty much covered a lot of it. If here, let's just do this. Let's just do this. So after you watch, or even before, you need to watch this scene from Beauty and the Beast. There we go. All right, there is in stories like this, and I said it before about guy meets girl. There's just a single moment where both of them notice each other, and I don't mean notice like as in they see each other for the first time, but it's a special kind of noticing.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like, at least how the stories tell it, is that the girl notices first, which is why the Kiera Knightley body language in the supermarket comes up.
Mm-hmm.
But
Women are good at noticing the marginalized figure on the periphery.
yeah,
What a job.
The thing that's never discussed in these stories is the qualities that make women attracted to men. It's always assumed, and it's never really physical.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
not what they
so,
say on TikTok, Tommy.
well, yeah, I know. Well, TikTok is
I'm
full of a
teasing.
bunch of perverse enchanters, so
Yes, it is.
yeah, yeah. Um, the so my question about is the story true is yes, if the world is enchanted. If men
Okay.
and women are paying attention to the things they should be paying attention to, they're going to notice these things that create this story.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's representative of a truthful pattern.
Right. But it also, the feeling that you get from hearing these stories enchants you in a way that makes them want to be true in reality. And so you do little things to make it true in reality.
Like
What
Kiera
little
Knightley,
things?
someone like Kiera
Well,
Knightley might watch this story and then be more receptive to an average looking guy or something like that.
but also the guy who's like Joe are they're going to look for cues that are like what Kiera Knightley gave. They're going to pay more attention to the women around them to look for the women who are presenting that type of body language.
Hmm.
But the Hallmark movie wants you to pay attention to the clothing, the decorations, the job, right? All
Yeah.
the superficial things.
Yeah.
Well said. Yeah, I've thought about what luck is, and a big part of luck is just being open to the possibility that a good thing will happen. It's like, who's going to find the good parking spot at the mall? The person who checked the front row first, or the person who's like, oh, there's never a spot on the front row. I'll just start at the back.
Exactly. Yeah. The ad, the Keira Knightley ad, the most realistic version isn't where Keira Knightley says no. The most realistic version is where Joe doesn't even ask and acts like Kira's not there.
It's true. Hmm.
Fortune favors the bold.
Are there other, okay, let's do this. Not a Hallmark movie, but are there other stories that have this same sort of enchanting power?
Yeah.
If this would be a good one, but
Filch, I think you're dying.
uh,
I think you
I
said,
was
"Kid, I
talking
hear
about
you."
Luna Lovegood. What do you think of that story? Oh, you couldn't hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you
Hello?
now.
We can hear you
No?
now.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if this applies, but what about Luna Lovegood? Like I've always felt a deep infatuation for her.
Um,
Nope. Did I cut out again?
no, I got you. If Luna Lovegood had played a more central role in the story, it'd be easier to say. but she was not even like a supporting character. She was like a tertiary character.
That's right. Yeah.
So let's do this. Okay, so with Harry Potter, throughout the whole series, what people expected to have happen in the books is Harry marry Hermione. That was the expectation. And it was really shocking when Harry marries Ron's sister. I can't remember her name.
Jenny.
Yeah, Jenny. It's like they looked at each other once, right? Okay, I guess
Right.
they're married now. Yeah, and so the reason why people thought Harry and Hermione were a good match is because of all the interactions they had, especially in the fourth book. Fourth book is
Goblet of Fire.
yeah, because that's when the School of Girls shows up.
Yeah. But then Ron and Hermione are like I do see like that desire for people to have Hermione and Harry be together, but it's funny because like in the Goblet of Fire, it really is set up for you to feel that Ron and Hermione are the ones who are going to be together because they're always fighting.
Yeah, it's not dissatisfying that Hermione and Ron are together. It wasn't expected.
Yeah.
It's not the expected pairing. And
Right.
I think that what the problem was is that Rowling had a different intention that she wanted to portray to the audience. The Harry pairing at the end is more like the ad with Kiera Knightley, where Harry, the hero, the superstar, marries the ordinary girl. Even though really Harry is ordinary, like in a wizard sense, like he's not even like a spectacular wizard. He's just an ordinary wizard with a magical scar.
But
Right.
he is
Like
the celebrity.
Hermione. Oh, go ahead.
I said, but he is the celebrity.
Yes, he is the celebrity, but Hermione is an
Celebrity.
actual good wizard.
Mm-hmm.
Is she? I mean, intellectually, she's a good wizard.
Yeah, but I mean,
But
if she's
do you see more
if
like I guess like with Deathly Hollows, I haven't. I was
any
just gonna say
student,
like with Deathly Hollows, I haven't seen it.
any student that is given a time traveling device so they take more classes because they're not being challenged enough in the ones that they have, I would say that's a good student, a pretty good wizard, right? So Hermione is fitting an archetype in the story.
Right.
So Hermione matching up with Harry. That's just two archetypes at the top of the hierarchy and like competing for two different things. Where Hermione would be like pursuing a career in wizarding, and Harry couldn't join her because Harry's celebrity, and everyone would be like, you know what I mean? It would just compete too much. Which is what happens with celebrity. Two celebrities that get married in secret, and then you hear about it in the magazines.
Right, yeah.
They don't last because of that problem. But with Luna Lovegood, I mean, what makes Luna Lovegood a good character is that she's those fringe characters. I said in the text that she's a transient wizard, not in the Harry Potter wizard sense, but in the archetype sense. That she moves in and out from the fringe, to impart a wisdom the same way Dumbledore does, and the same because okay, let's do this. So the fringe characters that we're looking at is Dumbledore, Hagrid, and Luna Lovegood. Dumbledore is on the fringes because he's in his office. He's not really participating in the school affairs. You only ever see him in the food hall or in his office. If you ever see him out,
Right.
it's like
You
when
meet
he's
him at
dealing with
night.
business. Yeah. Hagrid is on the outskirts of the school grounds because he's the groundskeeper and he keeps beasts, right? Luna Lovegood is more like she just appears out of the shadows. She emerges from the fog out of nowhere to like impart wisdom. These three characters are transient wizards because they're traveling between the different worlds. And Harry is obviously the archetype of the hero. And so he gets his wisdom from these transient wizards who come in from the fringes. In the same way, Abraham gets his knowledge from Melchizedek. Or some, not his knowledge, but some knowledge. Are there other stories that are have that enchanting power with like love, the love relationship, like in the ad? So I mentioned Beauty and the Beast, but that's because that's my favorite Disney movie.
Trying to think. Well, Pride and Prejudice. Speaking of Kiera Knightley.
Okay.
Anything Pride and Prejudice?
Oh yeah, that's a really good one.
Mm-hmm.
What makes it so good?
I don't know.
Compare,
Well,
like, do the
like,
contrast. Like, contrast it
it's
to Hallmark movies.
I mean, like, this really desirable male suitor is coming and she, like, rejects him, you know? Like, probably anybody else would be happy to be with Mr. Darcy, you know? But
Why
she's
does she
just,
reject him?
well, at first she's just like, I can't stand him. You know, she just thinks he's, like, stuck up because he's rich.
Yeah.
You know? Something like that.
Yeah. And then, okay, so let's do the story beats. So at first she rejects him because he is he acting stuck up, or she just have a preconceived notion because of previous information, like the politics?
Yeah, I think it's a preconceived notion.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we can see this archetype play out in other places. You see it in Beauty and the Beast, right? Beauty sees Beast as like the animal and her captor. In Aladdin, Jasmine sees Aladdin. Well, the second time Jasmine meets Aladdin, she's not attracted to him because he's pretending to be a prince, right? But really, he's just an orphan boy, homeless orphan kid.
Yeah.
I'm running through my Disney movies. My mind's drawing a blank. Anyway, you see this archetype happen frequently, where the guy has to emerge, and we see it in the ad too, right? Joe has to like work up the courage to ask her out on a date, and she's staring at him while he's like making all the struggling faces. So in Pride and Prejudice, what finally turns her around to Mr. Darcy?
I'm trying to remember the moment. I think she realizes like he's been doing these good things all along, and it's kind of been behind the scenes. Like he hasn't flaunted all the good things he's done, you know? So she realizes he is really a good man.
Okay.
But she also
When did
realizes
Belle-
that she's attracted to him the whole time anyway.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. When did Belle turn and realize that she was in love with the beast?
Same thing, right? Like she's the humanity. She saw the humanity.
Yeah. When did Jasmine realize that she liked Aladdin?
When she knew he was the same ordinary person, as the guy she liked at first.
Yeah,
both
who's
of
the
them
guy
were
that she
willing to
liked?
take a risk to defend the innocent or the
Yeah.
weak.
What's the shared element in all three of these turning events?
Saw the goodness inside them.
Almost. Something happens before that. What are the qualities of the guys that
They're able to protect. They have inner strength. They're not just
they're
weak.
doing something. It's not just that, they're doing things. Mr. Darcy Mr. Darcy's doing Mr. Darcy's doing charity. The Beast is exhibiting like compassionate actions like feeding the birds and giving her a library and letting her move around more places in the castle, things like that. And then in Aladdin, Jasmine sees that Aladdin is taking care of her. Like he's treating her like she's not a princess. Like she's somebody else that's homeless that needs to get away from the guards.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're all actions.
Mm-hmm. So what is the thread?
Oh, the thread is that you have to have something that that shows that you're of value. And so if you're not doing anything, if you're just a guy who doesn't do anything that signals your quality, if you're a guy who's not doing anything to signal your quality, then nobody's going to be attracted to you. You have to do something valuable.
And not point to it yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Women are really good at seeing the narrative in very singular activities or actions. And this is what all these stories put together really well, is that there isn't a long spiel about about previous like engagements with charity. All that has to happen in Pride and Prejudice is that he works in charity, and then blam, it's just that's all it's needed. And in Beauty and the Beast, it's like he gave me a library, he's feeding these birds, he's acting like a compassionate human being. So there's something going on here. And then in Aladdin, it's like, he's helping me get through the city to get away from the guards to protect my life. But within these actions are packed narratives that women are really good at seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just realized, Tommy, why you remember these so clearly. Memory is connected to meaning. If you show a chess grandmaster a certain position that's not realistic, is not actually possible in a chess game, they won't be able to memorize it. But if you show them something that would have resulted from actual situations in a game, then their memory will be like amazing. Like they'll be able to tell you, what game it's from. That's from Spassky versus, Kasparov, 1986, right?
Yeah.
Because like all the purpose and meaning around it is sort of what like the mind grabs onto. So because you looked at those stories and you could see the mechanisms involved, you could see what's symbolized there, then you attach to it. But because we're, we didn't see that right away, it kind of became more of a throwaway for us, like some of the aspects of it. But now that we've discussed it, I'll never forget any element of the commercial.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. But the way that I do it it's not a superpower. It's something that I learned. The minute you learn story structure and you learn that people who are telling really good stories are conveying information, and you learn how to pull the information out because the author is putting it in there. The author of the story or the art is putting the information in the art so that you can hold on to it. And so if you learn how the artist does it, you can look at the commercial or the movie and be like, oh, I get it. And then you put it away and you hold on to it forever. It's a skill learned, but that's why all information that's conveyed does this. Like you're saying with the chess master, is humans hold on to information that's useful. We hold on to information that's useful better when it's put in a story, whether it's historically accurate or fantasy. The information is what is being held on to, which is why the ad with Kiera Knightley is true, and you hold on to it in the same way that you would hold on to the information like the day your kids was born, right? As long as it's in a narrative form, people hold on to it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the enchantment occurs when the story and the thing that you think ought to be true turns out to be true in the primary world, in reality. That's when the enchantment happens, and the story blends with the real world.
Mm-hmm.
That it resonates and then people find the value there.
Yeah, because if you find out that if you're pursuing a good, so if a guy pursues a good and doesn't doesn't gloat about it and just pursues it, a girl's gonna notice. It could be a Kiera Knightley is gonna notice, and then you could if you do everything if you don't crush that relationship, it'll work out. If you find out that story happens in reality, you're never going to forget that story. And in fact, what you're going to do is you're going to tell that story to your kids.
Yeah.
That's why we still tell the biblical story.
Yeah. Yeah, and also slow and steady wins the race. And make your house out of bricks. Don't make it out of straw or twigs. Don't trust wolves in grandma's clothing. Like, have the skills to discern when it's a wolf and when it's grandma. Don't lie about there being a wolf attacking because one day a wolf will attack, right? All of those stories too. They get in our it's Martin Shaw's bone memory. They get stuck in our bone memory and become a part of not just the culture but like us as individuals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been telling my kids a story at the dinner table every night lately, and
fun.
maybe you can't tell the whole story necessarily in their attention span, but you can sort of break it down to the key aspects. It's like, okay, why don't you kill the golden goose? Why don't you cut it open and get all the gold right now? And let them answer. Is that even in the story? Depends which version or what?
You mean the goose that lays the golden egg?
Yeah, is that from Jack and the Beanstalk, or are they referencing another story or something?
So the problem with stories like that nowadays is that the goose that laid the golden egg is in a lot of stories. It's in Jack and the Beanstalk, It's in Willy Wonka, right? So people take that archetype and they use it a lot. But the idea is the same. The idea is that don't kill the goose that's giving you golden eggs, because it's like, just start stacking golden eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you use force, you're not going to get all the gold now. You're going to destroy the source of gold.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the manna, right? Wasn't there something when the manna comes down every day, but something happens to those who try to collect more than one day's worth of manna?
Yeah, so it's manna and quail. So the manna comes down, but the manna only lasts a day. So you would collect it, and then it would just turn to dust the next day.
Yeah,
God
it was
only
like
given.
spoil.
Yeah.
Something.
It was either spoil or turn to dust. It was something like
I
that.
can't
But
remember.
the idea was that God wasn't going to allow them to stack up. He was only going to give them enough to like survive the day.
Yeah.
I think it festers with bugs if you keep more than you're supposed to.
Mm.
You know, too quickly, but we can sort of push the football ahead. You know, if we see how we are part of the same mission as those that came before us, those that came after us, and
Oh, we lost him.
Oh, maybe he'll come back on. I feel like he didn't finish his thought.
I don't think he did either.
And then maybe it was like, maybe he realized we couldn't hear him or something.
There he is.
Yeah. Did you finish your thought, Kevin? You're
so
saying
I
about pushing the football too far ahead or something.
yeah, like I haven't fully connected it, but I feel like there's a connection there. And then I was thinking of that. I was also thinking Futurama does a little bit that sort of is like that. But anyway, where they materialize people, but they're only materialized for like 5 seconds, and they have a little job, they get it done, they turn to dust, and then like a new version of that person maybe gets materialized, or someone else gets materialized to do a different aspect of the job. But anyway, has anyone seen that new Tron movie?
No.
No. Have you?
Yeah, I watched it with the kids, and I wasn't expecting Christian symbolism, but man, it is chock full of it. I mean,
Well, so is the
my
first
goodness.
one.
I heard the first one was way more even, but I never noticed.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing. You don't know till you know, right?
Yep.
Cool.
But I also found that it was kind of muddled. Like they didn't really, it wasn't like they're Christians that are, showing you this the hidden laws of reality or something. They're just like, oh, these things exist and they're fun to like sprinkle in there because it'll be like Easter eggs for people, for like pleasure. But it's not like it makes you feel good, but it doesn't make you good.
Yeah.
But there was this. But in the movie, the spirit realm manifests these demons into reality that are, they're like 3D printed people with like strong attributes, strength and such. And but at first they only, because like the ultimate creator, like the God character, he held on to the permanence code. They called it permanence code. So these guys could only exist for 27 minutes at a time, and then they turn to dust. So this guy, printed out these super soldiers, and he's like, look at the future of weapons, invest in my company, buy my stock. And then he ushers everyone out of the room because he doesn't want them to see that these guys turn to dust, 27 minutes later. And then, but they're competing, the bad guys and the good guys are competing for access to the permanence code. The ultimate creator, made a secret code or something that makes these guys actually permanent, so they don't turn to dust very quickly. But also it means that they only get one life, instead of like you exist in the real world and then you turn to dust, but your sort of spirit gets recycled, and then you can put it into another body later. It's like, okay, now you're permanent, but you're also you only get one one corporeal existence. So make it count.
Cool.
So I don't know. There's some callback to the garden there, I think. But does any of that strike anything for you guys about things that turn to dust? I don't know. There's something about our existence that we turn to dust.
Yeah, that it's so the permanence code is obviously a reference to Christ's salvation, but it's also a reference to the idea that you're never the same person after a certain amount of time or after a certain event. And so if we were ever going to just stay the same, we would have to do that. We'd have to keep putting out an old copy every like hour or so, because it couldn't contain new information. But the fact that we change so frequently means that like it's the idea that we're not the same person we were like a week ago.
Yeah, so re-uploading from that original thing, we would lose what we had how we had changed.
Yeah, it's also making the point that are you being human if you're stagnant?
And then there's humanity. Is humanity being human if it's stagnant?
Yeah.
We might as well be just like the first thing, if we're not becoming more true images of Christ, the image that's been embedded in us all along. If we haven't been engaging in formation, then you might as well just be turning to dust.
Yeah, that's why Tolkien calls us sub-creators.
Co-creators. This is what the nihilists subscribe to. It's an extremely disenchanted worldview that none of this means anything. So just seek pleasure, avoid pain, and die. That's all you can do. That's the highest existence. Nothing means anything. None of this has any meaning or purpose.
I'm having like a couple thoughts. So like this thought of like staying the same or something. So my son was telling me the other day, there will be these little trends. Well, this was in that same conversation about TikTok. So there's these trends. And so he's like, all the girls right now, they'll post these things and they'll be like, my heart yearns for XYZ, and it'll be like, hot cocoa and fuzzy slippers, or like, just, I don't know. And so
It's all Hallmark
it's like,
Channel.
yeah, everybody's,
Good deal.
that my heart yearns for this. And he said, he was in like Sunday school at church, and they have like, for the teenagers, it's like all the teenagers of the same age are together, and there's like a teacher, and he's like, and this one was, my heart yearns for, and it was like some Christian thing, some, trying to be Christ-like or something. But he's like, I couldn't keep a straight face, Mom, because I know she's just doing the same thing, this TikTok thing,
Yeah.
And it was like, they're trying, so it's like, yeah, they're not being real humans at this point. Like when you're just recreating the same thing over and over, like this. Like you could take her seriously if that wasn't a trend, but since it's a trend,
If they held any meaning for anyone.
Yeah. But I think she was trying to be serious, like, but at the same time, it was like, it just, she feels fake, because she was doing it like that.
Yeah.
Weird. And then I had a random story come to my head because you were talking about this enchantment in the real world,
Yeah.
So there was this story in our neighborhood that's like, it's incredible. And I'm just like, every time I think of it, I'm like in awe of how this happened. But and I don't know. You tell me if it's like, I don't know how it quite fits in enchantment, but I swear it does. So okay, so there's this family down the street, and they have their son is like severely autistic, and so he's an adult. He's like in his young 20s, but he's like, mentally handicapped, and just needs like constant supervision. And there was a guy, another kid, in our area, who I guess when this boy was like in high school, maybe when he was like 17 or something, at the high school they had like other high school students can be a helper in these classes, for like mentally handicapped ones. And so there's this kid, Corey, and he just became like best buds with this guy, the kid's name is Corey, who's mentally handicapped, and I forget the other guy's name. Anyway, they just became best buds, and he was like a genuine friend to him for several years, and he would come over to his house and hang out with him, like he was just like this like golden kid, in this family's life, and for Corey. And meanwhile, Corey's mom had like liver failure. Like she was on like a liver transplant list and just really sick. And the dad is working like 3 jobs, like it's just like, it's like this dire kind of a situation. And so then the kid who was like his best buddy, he got married, and in the same year he got married, I swear it was like 6 months, he got in a car crash. And it was fatal. And but okay, I'm gonna cry. But he was an organ donor, and his liver was a perfect match for the mom. And the mom got this guy's liver. and now she's like doing fine. She's like, she can take care of her son now. But so it's like this, it's crazy bittersweet story. But I swear, it has to do with enchantment.
Say,
Yeah.
wow, maybe reality is enchanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. So, okay. There's a lot going on there. So there's the obvious element that Tolkien talks about with eucatastrophe, where the euphoric and the catastrophic are in the same event, right?
Yeah.
The death bringing life is the eucatastrophe in the story.
Yeah.
But also, Candace, it's not your family. Why are you so choked up about it? That's sarcasm. That's just
No, I know.
yeah. But why does it hit you?
Because it's just like, who'd have thought, like this, he was gonna be the one that saved the guy's mom, like, but he had to die, or I don't know. It's just like, yeah, well, I'm choked up about it because they're my neighbors, and I mean, I'd be choked up about it if I just heard it from you too. Yeah, why?
Of the ways to die, isn't that one of the best ways or reason, or isn't that one of the best outcomes from a death to happen? Because with
Yeah,
somebody's death, you don't want like more death on top of it, right? You don't want
yeah,
somebody to die and take 4 people with them, right? That makes us angry. You don't want somebody to just die for no reason, like unless it's like a natural cause, like he went in his sleep and he's old, right? We're like, okay, that's a good ending to that story, but it's not the best ending. The best
yeah,
ending is that you die and somebody else is saved.
yeah.
Yeah, but what other story is that true of?
Christ.
Yeah, crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Okay, that's what happens with enchantment. Is that a story, even though it can have that sad element to it, we want the best outcome,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's tied to a tragedy. We want the world to end on a high note.
Yeah.
That's an odd. That's one of those deeply held odds. We don't want it to mean nothing.
Yeah.
The nihilists will say that's what they want, but that's not how they live. They live chasing high notes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the story absolutely has stuff to do with enchantment.
Yeah, it's like unbelievable, but
Yeah, okay. It's only we're using the word unbelievable in the same way that we're saying that it's unbelievable that Kiera Knightley gets with Joe in the ad.
yeah. Yeah.
It's unbelievable because another thing that we believe and see in the world is that the world's not a good place. It's not good here. Good things can happen, but there's something in the DNA of the world that makes it propel towards bad outcomes. Now, I mean, the
It's
Christian perspective is that it's a fallen creation from sin. But I mean, the observation is that it's not good here. And so when the good times happen, the thing, like, now, okay, we're also getting into the idea of like what we were intended to do when we were created. Like, deeper than this idea of sin is what God intended for us to be, which is what's in the Imago Dei. Is that deep in us is this thing? It's like, well, the world should be a certain way, but it's not this way. And so when things happen the way they should, we notice them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's what. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, isn't that it's like an act of worship. It's like you notice it's
Mm.
an act of worship.
Yeah, it can be. It's also what we experience when we see beauty. Like experiencing beauty is this being wonderstruck or in awe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a lot of those things. The reason why you cry. Oh boy, wow. The reason why you cry, Candace, is because they're little proofs. It's what Sam says in Lord of the Rings, that there is goodness in the world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for, right? And so the good outcome is proof that it's not all bad. But I mean, there is bad, but it's not all bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like the good proves itself in those moments.
And it makes
Yeah.
up for all the bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what enchantment is. Enchantment is these little moments. Even I mean, they're crafted moments for enchantment, but they're little moments that prove that the goodness is still there. I mean, that's true enchantment, but like a disenchantment is a crafted story that attempts to prove that things are meaningless. And the perverse enchantment is a story that's crafted to get power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny you said little moments. I'm thinking of a seed. It's like it's when you can see it, all of reality is in that little timeless moment.
Yeah, but those are the things that we hold on to. I mean, yeah, it's with stories too. Slow and steady wins the race. That's a little moment that we hold on to. Don't lie about wolf attacks, like all that stuff. All that stuff are those little moments that we're holding on to, because that's what's contained. That's what all the stories are contained in. It's like that little seed of the story,
Mm.
which is why the best stories tell you right at the very beginning what the story's going to be about in your first act.
Mm-hmm.
Harry Potter. It starts in the first act. Harry's a boy who's been adopted by his aunt and uncle, and they treat him like garbage and make him sleep in a little cupboard underneath the stairs. And he gets an invitation to wizarding school, and now he's going to go be a wizard. And now let's prove it. Let's prove that Harry's going to be a wizard, and that's the story.
Or isn't the seed of Harry just the fact that he's the boy who lived? And that's what
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to prove, is the fact that he lives.
Yeah.
It's hard to distinguish that. Like, I'll grant it to you, but there's like a lot of plots in Harry Potter, because there's the plot of Snape that's intertwined with all of it. There's the plot of his uncle. Uh-oh. Everybody crashed. Yeah, it's hard to, with Harry Potter's so well told that it's almost impossible to pull a lot of these these plots apart and
Right.
say that there's a main plot. So that is a huge part of the plot.
It's pretty crazy what y'all come up with. It's pretty awesome to just listening to all that.
Oh, good.
And I didn't even get to watch the video itself. That's what the Kiera Knightley video is still fun.
Oh. Yeah, you have to watch it later. It's pretty good.
Yeah. I thought because like whenever you brought that up, like the is this real? It was whenever I was talking about the Charlie Kirk and the what was her name? Erica Kirk and JD Vance.
Yeah.
That was what made me immediately shift towards meta narrative, but I hadn't
Yeah.
actually watched the first thing.
Well, no, that happens a lot because there are a lot of stories that are presented as stories that are just packed with that meta narrative.
Right. Well, that's cool. So it's not trying to preach I don't know. Well, because like when I hear like that word meta narrative, like it's like that it's trying to teach you something. It's trying to like cram something down your throat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not propaganda.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I need to read the Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. I have a copy of The Hobbit, but I got pretty discouraged from reading it because like there are books that I read like I think a lot of it has to do with it. Like I think I have an underdeveloped vocabulary for nature, and so when you describe the world, I just like it becomes so difficult to chew. I'd much rather just hear conversations than I would rather hear descriptions of the world. And so when Tolkien writes in The Hobbit, he's describing where the Hobbit lives, and I can't imagine it. I mean, I've seen the movies, and I vaguely remember them, and so I know the Hobbit lives in a hole, and I know what that hole looks like in the movie. But I want to imagine it just from the description, and when I imagine it from the description, I'm just like, ugh, I can't do this.
Right. Are you better? So you said you're better at listening to conversations. Have you tried doing the audiobooks?
Well, I don't think it's the act of listening or of reading itself. It's the vocabulary.
Okay.
So like whether I read it or whether I listened to it. I mean, listening to it would probably be better because I would just ignore the descriptions of landscapes a little bit easier because like listening to somebody pace it for you is different because you're pacing it yourself when you're reading.
Yeah.
But
The other option is there's no shame in skipping those bits, like the paragraphs or so.
yeah. Do you recommend starting with The Hobbit? I mean, I know it's the first book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, but it's not going to hurt anything to start with Lord of the Rings.
Okay. Cool. But then you think like with the short stories like the Aesop's fable stories and the fairy tale fables like those are more like bone stories, and then like when you get to things like the Iliad or like the great epics are those are not bone stories. They're like
They
it's
can be,
like
because whole civilizations were built off of those stories.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they're like it's like it's like an you're digging up a skeleton rather than a bone.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. That's a fun image. You got the corpse of Rome in your library.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I think I suffer quite a bit from disenchantment, that nihilism. Like, I've got all the good stories, but like I'm still not fully participating in them.
Yeah, disenchantment is harder to get out of than a perverse enchantment, because people who are in a perverse enchantment still believe in something like a good and an evil, and people in disenchantment, like a really strong disenchantment, don't believe in any of that. So, really, what you have to do is you have to submerge yourself in fiction. You have to do a little bit of escaping for a bit.
Well, I wouldn't say that I don't believe in good or I don't know. It's difficult to say that because I have the moral compass, right? It's just an act
Yeah.
it's the faith part that's difficult.
Yeah. They're all connected. They're in the same realm. But the trick is to cultivate an imagination, and so you want to do a lot more escapism than most people are wanting to do.
Right. So like instead of like dissecting the stories, it's better to just live in them for a while.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Another thing that disenchanted worlds do is they keep you busy. They make you feel
Living in
ashamed
them,
for not
also
doing
seeing
anything.
yourself in them.
Oh, say that again, Kevin?
Is
I didn't
living
hear
in
you,
them
Kevin.
also seeing yourself in them?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah, another thing that the disenchanted world does is it makes you
I'm in
ashamed of
underground.
not doing. Oh, okay. It makes you ashamed of not doing anything. Disenchanted worlds makes
Oh,
you think that you have to always be producing.
So that idea of like I don't remember what it was tied to, but just like the world that we live in convinces you that you have to be producing, and then like prayer really fits into that. Or like you're cultivating the act of not cultivating anything, but you're
Yeah,
secretly cultivating something, but you don't want to
yeah,
hold on to that idea when you're praying.
yeah. Creating art is another thing that kind of does that. When you're trying to become a really good artist, you're not actually producing anything for anyone else. You're just producing to get better at it. But because of the nature of art, you're technically not producing anything. You're building a non-tangible skill.
Right, right.
And so, like writers, like some of the best writers, often have practices of staring at a blank page for a while, or like a blank canvas. There's also a lot of times where a writer will not even do that. They'll just sit like in a forest or in their house and just imagine and just think about different worlds and different stories until they find one worth writing.
Yeah. What blank pages terrify me. It's much more comfortable to sit and stare at nature, and then you let your mind wander that way. Do you
Oh, yeah.
do you practice anything like that?
I have a pretty overactive imagination, and I actually have to work real hard to turn it off. I could be doing
Yeah,
anything, and my imagination will be going off. So
right.
I have the opposite problem.
Of staring at blank canvases. Yeah,
No,
you're always wanting to put things down.
yeah, I'm always imagining something, and a lot of times it distracts me from doing the things I should be doing, and so
Right.
yeah. Uh,
Oh, hey, Gordon.
Gordon, long time no see.
Long time no see. I've made my arrival.
Oh, hi.
Well, I heard you guys. This place has kind of become like a. You know how Christ says, "Den of vipers," more like "den of losers." So it's like,
Oh,
good, sorry.
oh,
Oh.
I was like, I better cleanse this place of whatever the hell is. Oh, I can't stay too long because I have to work tomorrow.
oh, okay.
Maybe tomorrow, actually. No, I have an event thing. Maybe Saturday. We'll see.
Oh, what are you doing?
Two things. One, I had I had my second confession ever. So I had
Oh.
my first confession in Macedonian church, but I was like, didn't really work out. And then I moved cities, so I started going to this Russian church.
Oh,
And I found a priest that speaks English. He lived in the States for 6 years. And a very kind of thoughtful, educated person. Maybe not in this kind of Symbolic or whatever, but whatever. Kind of cool person. So I went with him. And that means last Sunday was the first Sunday I took the Eucharist after over a year.
okay.
Oh, it's one crazy experience. But finally, yeah. Well, I didn't want to do it until I could have like proper confession. That's been. And usually in the Macedonian church they don't give you any guidance, like none. Over here they do.
Oh,
So it's depends on the priest, but there's too much ignorance over there and lack of care, I think. But okay, I feel like I'm entering into the rhythm of things again, and so that's kind of nice. Other than that,
why did you move cities?
reading job. It took me a year to find a job, and then I
Yeah.
was in somewhere around central west of Germany, and now I'm in the south of Germany, in Stuttgart. With plenty of Americans here, by the way. I've never met more Americans in my life. There's like a U.S. military base here.
Is this still that water job, right? Where you're purifying or writing programs to purify water, stuff like that?
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
gig.
Okay.
That's so cool.
What, the Americans?
No.
Yes.
Purifying water.
Well, we're actually purifying these crystals. It's not like it's a bit of a different job, if you know what I mean. But whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. gotta get the bread, as they say.
Right.
All right. No, it's purifying liquids. That includes
Okay.
medical liquids and oil, stuff like that. A lot of
Oh.
the money comes from oil. They look for microparticles in those liquids, sort of. That's the idea. And if they're too large, they filter them out. Because when you're at the microparticle level, you don't care what kind of particle it is anymore. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just size. All right. And if it's too big, get rid of it. If it's too small, who cares? And like biggest customer is Caterpillar, because they have these, what do you call them? Like these machines that for construction sites and whatnot. The
Yep.
mobile ones with
Like
the
excavators and yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And because they work with there's a lot of dust and whatnot from the construction site, and a lot of particles enter into the fuselages.
Oh, yep.
And so they do these like routine checks and they buy our equipment, and then they do these checks either on site or in some laboratory. Sometimes they just send samples or whatever, and then they make sure that they want to figure out if it's proper time to change equipment or can they work with it a little longer, so they don't make any expensive mistakes. And then same thing, it's kind of funny. They sort of have to design the machines in a way, especially when they sell them to hospitals and like medical research companies. They sort of have to make them in a way where it's very difficult to modify the results. And so if you get some sort of results, you can't sort of change them. Because sort of selling these machines to like some companies in India, and they would get like some some liquids or like whatever, like eye drops or something, and then they wouldn't be pure at all. But they would change the results of the machine or whatever. They were like, yes, they're pure. The machine says so, and they would
Oh
sell
boy!
them, so they wouldn't waste money.
Wow.
Type of stuff you have to deal with. Also, some Chinese company started copying the machines and everything on them,
Of course.
and they started selling them with the same logo and everything, as one does. And so now they so now when they sell stuff, when they put the logo on, they have this like reflective whatever part of the paper.
Yeah.
And see if you right if you put it under specific type of lighting, you can actually see like some invisible ink or whatever. Yeah, I work with the microchip stuff. They have old code, and I want to make it work with new chips. That's sort of my job. Pretty okay. It's also it's one of those places where it's very stable, a little too stable maybe for its own good. So it gets boring. So it kind of seems like a lot of people there are just unfulfilled. They're really bored at their jobs, and they can't wait until it's over. They make a lot of jokes about how they love time after work or something like that. They
Oh,
try to
yeah.
subtly hint. Yeah. Not much excitement. No, who cares? For me, it's fine. Pays the bills, and I can go home, and I'm not too tired, so I can read.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing. I've been reading ancient Greek stuff. I have a huge
Oh, okay.
reading list, enormous. So it's for the next decade and a half, maybe whatever. I'm not even joking. It's really that. So I think what I have. This is how my mind works because I'm a little too ambitious for my own good. So
Yeah.
I don't have a list of books. No. I have a list of authors. So that
Oh
means
no.
everything in the chronology of which they wrote the books.
Yeah, but if you're reading history, these guys are professors, so they're writing like huge tomes for classes. And
Well,
what did you
what I'm
do?
reading is I'm reading. I have like 2 sets on the list. One side is philosophy, and then the other side is literature. And
Okay.
they're chronologically kind of placed in terms of like
Oh,
historical periods. So that's actually the
yeah.
cool part. It's kind of like I want to take myself down like this long trip, like through history of how people used to
Yeah.
think. So what I plan to do is like I have a just philosophy, and then I'll focus on philosophy, and then at some point in the list I'll hit something that says something like literature 1, and when I hit that I switch to the other list, and then I read through everything that's on the other side of the list until I go back to philosophy. And so I'll pick a period, and then for that period just the philosophy, and then just the literature, and then next period until I get to the bottom. I imagine, I know it's a bit too ambitious. I can send the list if people want to look at it. But I'm thinking that over the more I read, the more I'll develop kind of like a proper sense of what is quality writing and what is a waste of time.
Yeah.
And so over time I'll just remove authors. I don't have to read all of them. But
Okay.
because at some point, like people write a lot, but they have little to not much to say, right? And so they'll write a book about like 3 ideas. And you look at ancient philosophy, especially modern philosophy, right? But look at ancient philosophy, every sentence matters. And it's so refreshing to read something like that.
Yeah.
Here's the list. Nice. All right, so I haven't gone far. I just ticked one item on the list so far. So I started with, there's this amazing book series. It's called Loeb's Classical Library. Some Jewish banker in the 19th century was like in the US decided he has too much money. Hello. Right, and he was like, "What do I do with this?" It was like, "Should I invest it into undermining the state?" And he was like, "No." And so he made this Loeb's Classical Library. His name is Loeb, right? And the idea was to take every ancient Greek and every Latin text and translate it into English, and then just have that. And I love it because there's another book with the same name, also called Early Greek Philosophy, written by this guy John Burnett. And a lot of people, when they make these books, what they do is they explain stuff. And so from these philosophers before Socrates, there are 0 books left. No books are saved or salvaged or whatever. The only thing left is fragments. And so you have to find them from fragments they dug up somewhere from like some piece of paper, or from what other authors wrote about them. So they would sometimes cite their books or something, and you can pick up the citations. And then you can also see what other philosophers said about those guys, right? Which is kind of interesting because you'll have like 3 philosophers and they'll all conflict with the same information. But whatever, it's interesting. And so you have something like this, and then usually when people write about this stuff, it's just like explanations. And it's like 60% of the book is just what the author of the book has to say, and I hated those. But what Loeb does is they just give you the translation. They have like an introduction for every philosopher, 3 or 4 pages or something, not that much. And the rest is just 1 page. You have the original language, so either ancient Greek or Latin, and on the other page you have English, and that's it. And it's fantastically edited. I've never seen a book edited. Well, I haven't read much, but whatever. This is like top notch. Because what they did is they Aeschylus wrote Promethean trilogy. Sorry, we only have one of 3. Actually, when it comes to literature, more stuff is salvaged for sure. Like dramas and stuff, yes, but for the philosophers, nothing. They became useless after a while. But I was gonna say they always start with like traditions about what those philosophers were like and how they grew up. It's almost like their history, like their biography, but it's very interesting. A lot of it is quite like ancient symbolism. It's very, very interesting. I can't talk about it too much because so what I did is I read the whole thing and then I wrote notes about all the philosophers. I skipped some because some of them were really boring, but the important ones at least. And then it's a long list. I want to sit down and just study it and then figure it out. But if you guys want to talk about this, I might have something interesting to share.
Okay.
People are up for it, I don't know.
It might be interesting. I usually get lost in philosophy books because I don't have a frame, and you need to. I feel like you always have to adopt. You have to spend a lot of time just building a frame so that you can understand one. But I'm sure there are other people who are way more gifted at making frames than I am.
No, legit. Have you read Matthew's book?
Yeah, I've read it.
That's your frame.
Yeah.
If you use that frame, everything unlocks. Because you literally have a higher frame than these guys. And so you can see what they're struggling with that you're not struggling with anymore because you can see it. It's very, very funny. But it's like key for everything. It's crazy. It's like the Christian story basically unlocks every other story. And it's not just a statement. It literally, the fact that it's higher just means you can now see the lower things. Of course, it takes work.
Mhm.
It's not like, but it's so much easier. And so the more stuff I understand about Christianity, the more I understand about everything else around. It translates so well. So what I've noticed as I was reviewing the entire thing, so the history of ancient Greek philosophy is really the history of the breakdown of a civilization. And that's not what I expected to see. But it's actually they're going through a meaning crisis. And it seems like it's going through the same exact pattern as we are. And
That
so
makes
I'm gonna
sense,
have to
especially
study that.
the jump from Plato to Aristotle to Socrates.
Yeah.
Like there's a clear breakdown throughout that lineage.
Well, those are actually, in my opinion, those are the people basically salvaging it. But
Oh,
before them, you can see the full breakdown. Yes, it's like Plato is almost like a Jesus figure in the whole situation.
yeah.
As much as, or Socrates, I guess, as much as they can be given the context in which they grew up in, right? But, well, Messiah, I should say, maybe not Jesus figure, but whatever, you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Almost. So it starts off with this is very important. It really starts off with Homer. And so Homer is like their Moses. He establishes the identity of the people. The whole thing with the Iliad and the Trojan War and whatnot. The whole thing happens during the Bronze Age. And the Bronze Age finishes with the collapse, right? There's the Bronze Age collapse, and it's literally the death of empires. And the local Greek kingdom, they used to be called the Mycenaeans, it just completely disintegrates. And that's why you have these like city states and whatnot, because they're literally fragments of something that used to be, from what I see. And then a few centuries after that whole breakdown, so after they've lost everything, a few centuries afterwards, you get Homer. And then Homer writes about a war that happened long before he lived. And a lot of what's written in the Iliad and the Odyssey it's like stuff about mythology. It's not so much.
Yeah.
It's not just the war and whatnot, right? So you have like the
Yep.
whole mythological structure. So it's really like it's their Bible in some sense.
Yeah.
As much as it can be. And that built their frame of reference to how they understood the world. And it shows in philosophy for sure, in their philosophy. So Zeus is the god of thunder, and it took me a while to understand, but it means something like heaven forcing itself on earth, right? So you have this flash of lightning, let's say, from the sky, and it's heaven like giving violence on earth. Well, maybe not giving, but whatever. It's like striking it, attack. It's like fire in that forest, dang. And it's loud and it's scary and it's like sudden, and that's sort of how they see it. It's like they have a will and they just enact it and they force it. So I think the Nordic religion was basically probably the same. And so they thought you have something like perfect heaven and something like imperfect earth, and then heaven forces its will upon the earth. That's why he rapes so many women. Oh, see ya, Vulture Scat. Next time. Whatever. I'll talk about this again when I have the notes reviewed. So that
I'm gonna run into a house here in a second.
Mhm.
I'm fascinated. I gotta run in a second for half an hour or so, but fascinated by this topic. I'm just gonna throw in the thought that I had.
Sure.
And to the reason that the literature survived better than the philosophy is because, for instance, with the the Promethean trilogy, they gathered every year and acted it out, and they actually, so it was all orally memorized, and they actually believed that what they were witnessing was the actual gods incarnate in front of them. So imagine believing that you're actually seeing it, the same story replayed in real life, like by the actual characters. You know, these are not actors; these are the actual gods. And then you would really remember that story. So that's how it stuck around.
Makes some sense, yeah. One of the philosophers that stuck around the most is Pythagoras. And one of the reasons why he did is because he formed a religious cult. Usually cults were just meant school of thought back in the day in ancient Greece. But he had rituals and stuff. He had like prohibitions of what you could eat and whatnot. And then they had legends about who he was as a figure. And there's literally a Catabasis story about Pythagoras. He descends into death and he sees Homer and Hesiod. Hesiod is another figure that also wrote about mythology, also as important as Homer, maybe. And he sees both of them being tortured in hell. And there was specific ways they were tortured. I don't remember. And then he reincarnates, I think like 7 times or something. And then ultimately reincarnates into Pythagoras. It's a crazy story. But he kept all the memories from the past lives. And then that's why he can teach whatever he's teaching. So so he grows into this like almost godlike figure, like kind of half god, half man. I think they even use that language almost. And that all the other philosophers couldn't survive for more than a generation. But this guy just survived for multiple. And then everybody else afterwards learned from Pythagoras. Even though the cult died pretty soon afterwards. But yeah, just thought I'd throw that in. Alright. Damn. But yeah, so not to prolong it too much, but it's like Homer reigns for a few hundred years, and then there's this guy Thales, and he's the first philosopher. Him and some other guy that's contending for being first. What's his name? Parasites. Whatever. But Thales is more important. And he comes, and there's what he suggests basically is that instead of using deities to understand the world, you can use the natural phenomena around you. And they start with the natural elements. So you have like fire, water, earth, whatever, air. And then he picks water, and he says the world is water, which is very interesting. So that's the beginning of the breakdown. And so what's happening is it's as if the religious stories ran out of steam. And once they ran out of steam, they're trying to find out something else to believe in. But it's not so adamant at the beginning. Maybe that's not the right word, but it's not an immediate meaning crisis. But Thales is almost like opening the door for it. He shows up, and then it's like opening the door for, like, once you cross there through that, like there's no, it's like point of no return type of thing. So he shows up, and it's like he says world's made out of water. It's almost like the primordial chaos, which is kind of interesting. And what's the best part is because is the thing that, so these guys are they're very close to the Homeric age. So they're not completely cut off from the identity. And so that means even if they're basically the beginning of materialism, because they're using lower things to explain the higher things. But even though they're doing that, they're so high up that they still make symbolically sound ideas or philosophies or whatever. They're not completely logical. They don't add up all the way. But regardless, he'll come up with a theory of, like, let's say water being the origin of the world. And then the implications from that make total sense. If you just subscribe to that idea, I guess you should.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Right, but it's not like but it's not like some French theories that make almost no sense with how we think about meaning. They were just sorry.
I was agreeing. It's because the foundation that you're prescribing to is also true in the world, given some factors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my point was, it's more packed with meaning than anything else, and so it's so packed
Yeah.
with meaning that you can still learn stuff from it. Whatever. And he came up with the idea that all things are full of gods. That was the language he used. And he came up with that theory because he saw a magnet being attracted to another magnet. And he was like, what are these objects that are dead but moving? And he's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
So it sort of means that all things are full of gods. So he's bringing the divine sort of lower. And then he does that, and what happens immediately as a result is you start getting these traditions about who he is as a person, and then there's immediately traditions that he went and he studied with foreigners, that he is from foreign descent or a half foreign descent, which is very interesting.
Yep.
Right, that he's Phoenician or something. I think that was the idea. And this happens very often with the rest of the philosophers, that he studied with the Egyptians, with the priests of Egypt, with the Magi's, especially about astrology. They always, every time somebody says something very controversial, they always end up with something like a tradition that they studied in Egypt with the Magi's.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so poor Egyptians, everybody saw them the way the Bible sees them, it seems like. They were really like the end of the year. They were really like the end of the world in some sense. Kind of makes sense if you just look at their mythology. It's literally hybrids. It's human animal hybrids. And so it's the hybrids between the higher and the lower. And so it makes sense that they're right, like the kings of these confusion of this sort of very earthly country.
I mean, but that carries on to today, because every picture of the pyramids are in the desert. There's nothing around them, but like right next to them is the entire city that's like covered in green and skyscrapers and.
Right.
Yeah.
That's still the image, yeah, in some sense.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's a famous legend of how he predicted Thales, how he predicted an eclipse. And there's some prolonged war between two city-states. I didn't write which ones, I have to find it. It'd be nice to write them down. They keep fighting. And so he comes and he's like, listen, you have to end the war because I can read the signs and the gods are angry with you. You should stop this. Something like along those lines. That's the legend. And they're like, screw you. And he's like, okay, we're going to have a battle on this day. And they're like, yeah. And he's like, all right. The gods are going to show you that they're angry with you. If you have a battle on that day and there's an eclipse, you should stop. That's a sign. And they're like, okay. And they start fighting, and then there's an eclipse. And they're like, oh, okay. That's shouldn't have done that. And then they make peace. It's kind of interesting. He stopped the war by But that's it. There's not a lot of philosophies, not a lot of stuff that he wrote down that's remembered. But either way, he opened the door, and then everything afterwards flowed out from that moment. And that's the beginning of philosophy. And the beginning of philosophy is literally the beginning of materialism. It's using the lower things to explain the higher things. And so what happens is they keep going lower and lower, and they'll get down one level and then explore everything at that one level, and then once they've run out of options, they'll go one level below. And so, for instance, Tally says water, and then you'll have some other guys, and they'll be like, oh, actually, it's fire, or actually, it's air, whatever. And then they'll run out of elements.
Yeah.
And then they'll go one below, something like that. And at one point, they say something. They very, very quickly, and this caught me completely off guard, like because I knew nothing about this anyways. Some of the stuff they say is almost like they had access to the Old Testament. It's very close. Like they start coming up with the idea that there's one God very quickly. And there's like one God, and everything originates from there. And then it's a question about how this one God works. And they'll call this one God either Zeus or just say God, and then that's it. It's kind of interesting. And so there's this guy Anaximander, and he says something like, well, there's one God, and he's completely unlimited. And then the earth is limited and kind of chaotic, and then from this one God is the source of all being, or something like that. I'm not gonna go through all of it because there's too much. Oh, and they'll say something like the arche is the origin of everything. That's the arche. It's the source of everything. And so they'll say the arche contains the opposites, like warm and cold in it, and from it they are separated.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And the idea was you'll have this arche, fire, water, whatever it is, and then from that you'll get the heavens. And then from the heavens you'll get the deities. And at this point, a lot of ancient Greek people were actually very angry with philosophers because they're like, this is basically blasphemy. You can't put it upside down. And some of them get murdered because of this. Some of them live perfectly normal lives, but some of them get either exiled or killed because of these beliefs. They sort of, especially towards the end. Actually, by the time of Socrates, people hated philosophers, actually. That's what I know. I thought at that point that was the high point of philosophy, so everybody loved them. It was popular. But at that point, they were killing them left and right. They were like, they started accusing all the philosophers of being atheists because they were, I guess, that's my theory. They noticed the breakdown of their culture, and Homer is basically dead at this point. And they're like, "You've destroyed our Greek identity." You see what I mean? It'll make more sense when I go towards the end of the philosophers. And so they start getting pissed over time. So this is not like a without opposition. It's not like just these guys saying smart things and people are like, oh, that's cool. It's like, no. Something's going on here. They're trying to struggle with something. Okay. Some guy says air. Then there's this guy Xenophanes. I'm not sure how to pronounce him. I guess it's Xenophanes. He'll say something like there's one, or Xenophons maybe, probably.
Yeah.
And he'll say something like there is one God among both gods and men. God stays in one place and never travels from one place to another. And then God is spherical. Okay, so I'll jump through a bunch of them. Remember the spherical thing, it'll come back. So I'll jump through a bunch of them, and then you get
all the sacred geometry stuff.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
No, something kind of similar. Then Pythagoras shows up, and then he forms a cult. So he says he never wrote books. So a lot of his philosophies are actually known. And what we do know about Pythagoras is from his students, more or less. And then some people who have met Pythagoras and then wrote stuff down. But it's mostly from his students, and so we can sort of infer that the origin of the thought is from Pythagoras. So the cult was crazy. If you wanted to meet him, you have to join the cult, and you have to join something like an inner circle. And to join that inner circle, you have to have a vow of silence for 5 years. No words, no nothing for 5 years. You just shut up, which is insane. They couldn't eat they couldn't eat beans. I don't know why, but they really hated beans. Like because it comes up afterwards. I'm not sure what the symbolism of beans is, but they didn't like them. That red mullet fish. I don't know why. Sea anemones, whatever. And then wombs. You cannot eat wombs from animals. There's some structure to this, but I can't understand. I don't know how to make sense of this. Oh, and also they weren't allowed to eat non-sacrificable food. Possibly.
What was the first one?
Possibly. What do you mean?
Weren't there 3 in the list? 3 items?
There's a womb, beans, red mullet fish, sea anemones, and then other stuff.
Beans?
Beans.
Oh, bees.
No, beans. Like kidney beans or something.
Yeah, okay, yeah, beans. Okay.
Don't do it. Don't eat them. I don't know. Maybe they hated farting or something. Okay. So the idea is all things are made of numbers, and then the soul is immortal and reincarnates, which is not something I would expect from some guy that talks about mathematics, but sure.
Right.
I have the legend here. When some guy named Athalides, the herald of the Argonauts, died and went to Hades, he saw Hesiod's. I never knew how to pronounce this guy's name. Hesiod's soul bound to a bronze column and shrieking, and Homer's soul hung from a tree and surrounded by snakes, because of what they have said about the gods. And the Athalides, so the guy who's in Hades, possessed internal memory, and his soul migrated into the bodies of, and it says 1 person, 2nd, 3rd. Oh, so 3 people, my bad. I said 7, but it's 3 people. And finally, Pythagoras, retaining memories of all of his past lives. And so that's the story of how Pythagoras came to be. There's another story that he himself also goes into Hades and then comes back to tell the tale, which is more like a story of him going into Hades and surviving. He was a polarizing figure, so people worshipped him or really hated his guts. I think he was also in hiding. He was also in Sicily. So they even at one point start calling the Pythagoreans the Italians. That's also a nickname. But it kind of, which I'm assuming it means that this philosophy sort of blends into the culture somehow. So it's not just the cult, but it sort of integrates itself into the culture somehow, and then the cult itself dies, but some of the beliefs stay, something like that. Okay, if that's interesting.
Yeah.
He's the first guy to call the heavens cosmos. So, and which means beautiful or beautifully organized whole. And the earth round. So it's either him or Parmenides that said that the earth is round. And and there's some tradition. Some guy named Hippasus was drowned by the Pythagoreans for discovering irrational numbers, which contradicted their belief that all phenomena could be reduced to whole numbers or ratios, or because it was meant to be kept a secret within the Pythagorean brotherhood. Okay, so that's important.
Yeah, okay.
This is one thing I learned about the numbers thing, which I'm sort of figuring out still, but whatever. It's not just that everything can be calculated. It's actually one of the things that you say when you say that the world is made of numbers it's not just made out of patterns, but what you're saying is it's made out of harmony, like complete balance. Because
Yeah.
that's what numbers are, right? When you solve equations, right, it's always something equals something. And so two things on the opposites of equality, usually. Sometimes you have different metrics, but whatever. And so equations, not metrics, my bad. So what they're trying to say is like the whole world is something that's equalizing itself into something harmonious.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the hallmarks mathematicians will point to about really good math, like quantum physics and physics, is that certain equations are not only true, but mathematicians will call them beautiful. This is one of this is one of the comments they made about Einstein's theory of relativity, is that it was a beautiful equation as well as true.
That's very interesting. I think, personally, one aspect of beauty is that it's just a marker for something following a goal properly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a layer. There's also the wrestling with the ought on how we think things ought to be. When something works out and we're like, oh, that's how it should be, we recognize that as beauty or beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
True. All right. So Pythagoras. So I'll just mention some theories because they might be interesting, but there's something like both the eternity of things and nature cannot be known without the harmony of the limited and the unlimited. And so there's these two limited and unlimited, and they're sort of battling each other out, something like that. And they make sense of each other through harmony, through balance. And harmony is really equalizing. I think equality, equity, harmony, balance, they're more or less the same thing. Equality and equity are different politically, but in terms of symbolism, I think they're moving in the same direction. Something like total harmonization, which is kind of interesting because it's like even today's kind of the discussion about equality is actually about this flattening, and I think this flattening is actually the same thing as trying to understand everything completely rationally as something calculated, which kind of makes sense now that I say it out loud, but it's almost like they sort of see nature as this balancing force, and so the most natural thing you can do is to balance things out. Where you have, which ironically sort of implies that the world is made of opposites that are in conflict, and that's why they need to be balanced out. Right, and so they say something like numbers are either odd, even, or the third category called odd even, which is something like mixture of both. All right, so something like good, bad, and then the mixture of both, something like that. Just some ideas I wanted to throw out there. Also, here's another guy called Archytas, one of Plato's teachers, which is kind of interesting. So here's an example of what this numbers thinking kind of leads to. So he says, this is very interesting. Tell me of which website it reminds you of, which community.
Okay.
The discovery of calculation puts an end to civil strife and increases concord. Through this, there is no longer desire to possess more, and there is equality. There's no longer desire to possess more stuff, and there is equality. It is thanks to equality that the poor receive from the powerful and the rich give to the needy, thereby achieving equality. That's not the quote I wanted to read, but this also works. Yes. Oh no, give me. Yes,
I didn't
through
hear all of it.
calculation.
Did that basically just say that if you account for everything, then equality will automatically come?
Yes,
I didn't hear all of that.
it's kind of like that. Yeah, the discovery of calculation puts an end to civil strife and increases concord.
Ah,
And here's another one. Yeah, this is the one. Through calculation, you can show people that their actions are unjust and thereby preventing them from committing injustice.
what is this from?
From soybeans.
Plato's teacher.
I feel like
Plato's
if
teacher.
there was like a symbolic comedy club, like that could be like a headliner.
Bro. So it's from Pythagoras, basically. This is one of his students.
Oh, that's
I should
Pythagoras.
put that in
Oh,
here. No, he's a Pythagorean, so he's part of the same school of thought,
oh, okay.
right? But it's a lot of these could be attributed to Pythagoras probably because he never wrote anything, but we sort of imagine that they spoke about similar things, I suppose. But it's one of the Pythagoreans, yes. This is usually how they would, at least if nothing else, this is the implication of that type of teaching.
Yeah, mathematics is the highest.
Mm-hmm. Well, saying mathematics is basically saying calculation is the highest. So rational thinking is the highest, right? This equalizing is the highest. Mm-hmm. Meaningless equalizing. Meaningless, I think, is sort of important. Like, there's a thing. A lot of the philosophers get kind of stumped when they have to answer the question of why this happens.
Yeah,
And they keep using this one word, necessity.
right.
Always. And say, well, this happens because of necessity. That's it. Answers the question. I was like, why does nature strive for balance? Necessity. And I think it means something like survival. Like necessity to survive.
Sometimes it means that. Sometimes they mean that it can't happen any other way.
Oh, could be. Yeah, okay. Yeah. But interesting. There's this invisible force that orders the thing in the world in a certain way, and it's called necessity.
That's kind of like how might be a tangent, but kind of like how I feel like evolutionary biologists will talk about like certain animals that are alive today. Like I've seen I've every once in a while I've seen videos where it's like some scientist is talking about like an animal and it'll have like a random part on it, like maybe it's like hoof is a certain way or it's like its elbow is like curved in a kind of interesting way or something. And the scientist will just say like the reason that that their elbow is this way is because like 350 million years ago they they were in some different situation and so what they had to do is blah 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 blah. I'm like, dude, you have no idea if that's true, bro. You're just like, well, this is the way it is because of what's in my head. It's like, dude, like you're completely jumping ship from science. Like, what are you talking about? It just blows my mind like how often that happens.
Give me a sec.
What do you say?
He said, "Give him a second. I think he's pulling. You got to step away from the mic."
Oh, I got myself tea.
Ah,
I think
Nice.
no, but I think we're Pythagoreans right now. I think that's part of our world, not completely, because there's other philosophers afterwards that are also interesting. But part of us kind of do. I guess the Enlightenment was sort of like a Pythagorean cult, right? Very like at the same time we had a lot of these esoteric cults, and then at the same time we have this
definitely.
hyper rational thinking, right? And
Well,
this
yeah,
hyper
it's
rational
really-
thinking.
It's definitely Pythagorean because everything can be discovered through the rational, through reasoning.
Mhm. Precisely. Which makes no sense because
Right.
you rationalize from wisdom. You have some idea, from that idea you rationalize downwards. But if all you do is just you rationalize, that means you don't know what you're rationalizing from, and so it's implicit. Something implicit that you haven't figured out, that you've never made explicit for yourself. It's
Right, it's Wolfgang's vertical causality.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, Wolfgang Smith, he's the guy that talks about the cosmic icon with Jonathan that one time.
Okay.
Oh,
Look at it.
I thought we talked. It must have been Rustic and Necromo were talking about it. Wolfgang puts forth the idea that our idea of reality comes from a higher infinite, and that we transpose that meaning onto the physical world, the corporeal.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
And well, so they sort of, the numbers guys, the Pythagoreans in some sense, it's almost like, all right, so the higher infinite doesn't exist.
Yeah.
What you do have is like me imposing the meaning, or necessity, or something like that, imposing the meaning, balance itself, and then even the even if there is a higher infinite, it originates from this. And it's kind of like interesting. It's weird. But see, they're already trying to make the arche, God, into something abstract. Abstract and kind of, it's, well, that's sort of what abstract means, I guess, but it's somewhat detached from reality.
Right.
And they're moving away from more and more from deities and the gods. And now he's even moving away from the elements. So they're
Right,
kind
'cause
of
numbers aren't attached to anything.
So they're moving away from meaning, actually, could be another way of saying it.
Right.
Okay. And there's some stuff about numbers which I didn't go fully into, but nor will I. But some things I wrote that might be interesting for me later, I guess. Okay, whatever. And then after that, also in Italy, you had these other guys. Well, this one guy called Parmenides, and then two of his students. I think he had a few more, but he also started a school of thought that kind of survives for a bit longer. So there's the philosophers beforehand, by the way. Most of these guys, actually, their school of thought doesn't survive for more than a generation. In fact, for more than half a generation. It
Yeah,
very
when the leader
quickly dies
dies,
out.
it falls apart. Yeah.
Right. Sometimes he falls apart while the guy is alive. He'll become old.
Okay.
Right? And while he's old, somebody else younger shows up, comes up with a different theory, and then
Okay.
that becomes the right. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
a trend. It's a
Yeah.
trend that lasts for a few decades, but it's a trend kind of thing. It used to be air, now it's fire. It's like something like that. Oh, by the way, they'll say something like the soul is the seed. I'm skipping through a lot of these, but there's a lot of stuff that is super symbolically sound because they're still so, especially at the beginning, they're still so close to meaning that they can't detach it from whatever, from the things that they're studying. That, and it's also kind of funny. It's almost like they're little kids. That's right, because imagine you know nothing, so you wake up and you look
Yeah.
at this something. It's like, what is this thing that glows and kind of comes from the mountains and that goes back? And they're asking questions like, where does it go? And for us, it's like, oh, you know, just gotta go around. It's just the earth turns, and it's like, but for them, it's like, whoa. And then they couldn't figure out, like, is the moon flat? Is it spherical? Is it something else? And then at one point, somebody said, like, I think it gets the light from the sun. And then that becomes popular, and then it sticks. But some other guy was like, oh, no, it doesn't. It's actually a ball of fire. Yep, that's what the moon is. So is the sun. But the sun is more fire.
It's more.
It's more. Oh, and this is cool, but it's very sad for us. They kept trying to figure out what the Milky Way is. And we can't anymore. No more Milky Way. It's gone. Unless we go hiking in some. Yeah.
It's gone.
Right, but it's something it's something I never thought about, right? You have the sun, the moon,
Yeah.
and the stars. And that's what it says in the Bible too. Right? But actually for the Greeks, it was also the Milky Way. Like, what is this? You have the stars, but what is this little whole thing?
Yeah.
It zooms through the sky. Oh. By the way, the further down you go, as in further in the future, the more they start writing. And so the more prolific they come with what they have to, with their books, they usually, especially at the beginning, most philosophers wrote like one book and they all called it the same name. It was always called On Nature.
Oh, great.
I'm gonna write mine on nature. It's always the same one. But then the further down you go, the more they start up with like first. The title is still popular, so they keep using it. But they start like coming
Yeah.
up with different books, and so the complexity of what they write and the amount of what they write increases, which is kind of interesting. And so there's a positive to this, which is that it really helps them explore areas they've never explored before. And the further down they go in philosophy, the more they're able to sort of see in the world. It kind of becomes almost richer. I say almost because it's not connected to an identity. And so they end up always becoming more and more confused the more they do this.
Yeah.
Right? So it increases in complexity, a lot of new stuff, but then nothing's there to tie the complexity together. And so it becomes more confused. And so that's why people come up with very different theories over time. And then there's this guy Heraclitus that shows up, and he's like, there's a logos. I can't pronounce the word. Yada yada. And there's an artistic tradition, Heraclitus and Democritus. And it once called the weeping philosopher, Heraclitus, and Democritus is called the laughing philosopher. I think. Oh, welcome back. I think there was some tradition that from the ancient Greeks that called them something like that, but it's almost like as if it was forgotten, and then it came back in the Renaissance, and then they started like an art movement, and so there was a lot of images of those two, which is kind of interesting. I'll just post an image here. Beep. The guy on the left is Heraclitus, and then the guy on the right is Democritus. Whatever. So Parmenides shows up. I was going to talk about him. Also Italian, and so this is after Pythagoras, and then he comes up with a new theory, has to do with this God being a circle thing, a sphere, sorry, which I mentioned before. So they sort of naturally come to the conclusion of Greek mythology, which is something like one perfect heaven and then one imperfect earth, something like that. And so the Parmenides and his school, I'll just group. He has like two students that I wrote about in my notes. I'll just group them together. So the idea is basically you have one truth and it's spherical. And this one ultimate truth, that's God. And that's either limited or unlimited, depending on who's talking. But for Parmenides, it was limited. and it's this one perfect thing. And then what mortals do as a sin in error is that they see it as multiplicity, but actually it's unity. And so it's like they're like this close to rumination and the whole concept, but because of their sort of thinking, they just can't go there completely. And so he'll say something like, they keep talking about that which is and that which isn't, and so it's something like truth and lie. And he says, if a person sees that which is as separate from that which is not, then the person is in error. he sees one as necessary and the other as unnecessary because ultimately there is nothing that is not that can be comprehended. And so their idea is, you guys are studying something that is not. That's stupid because it doesn't exist. You can't study something that doesn't exist. It's part of the definition. That's sort of the idea. And he even said something like, if I can find it, he says something like, if you're studying something that doesn't exist, it's like you're inventing beasts with two heads. Oh yes, so attempting to study something that isn't non-existence is like inventing two-headed creatures, which is directed by the helplessness in the bosom. It is essentially seeing existence and non-existence as equal, which makes people blind, deaf, stupefied, and it's seeing the path as being backward turning, as in direction in and of itself being backward turning. And then he says it is like having an aimless eye. Okay. So, but this goes deeper. Their idea is, well, non-existence doesn't exist. So that means something like void doesn't exist. And so the primordial waters in Genesis, not real. No tohu wabohu. It's only the truth. That's the real thing. Which makes sense because it's true and the other thing isn't true. So that's the logic. And the idea is, they come up with an interesting idea though, which this is what I'm getting at when they say it's like close to rumination. It's kind of like, well, actually what you're supposed to understand is that you have some idea of what you think is true. And then there's the opposing idea and you think that idea is stupid. And that it's kind of nonsensical. But what you should realize is basically that it's actually just an aspect of what the whole truth is. And that you have like a partial aspect. And then the opposing opinion is the other partial aspect. And what the real truth thing is the thing above. Above both that makes sense of both. It's not that it makes sense of both. The one thing that is true, because the whole thing with the aspects is actually kind of like a illusion. It's almost like an error. And so basically what he's saying is heaven exists, but earth doesn't. Earth is an illusion. Well, he doesn't see illusion. It's kind of like multiplicity is something like error, like sin.
Oh, okay.
In Christianity, it's different because we have both. We have both multiplicity and unity, and they coexist, but they don't destroy each other. But over here, if you have something like Zeus forcing itself on Earth, it's kind of like one complete truth above, and then the other thing is something that's there to be forced on. So it's not completely real. Of course, it's not the best argument in existence, but this is what they come up with. And afterwards, there's some guy in Pythagoras that wrote in prose, but it was kind of boring. It's kind of like poetry that wasn't that interesting. Shallow poetry, in my opinion. But I wrote this one quote, which is very important. He was a Pythagorean. Most people studied from Pythagoras from this point onwards. So it's kind of a given that if you're going to be a philosopher, you're going to study from the Pythagoreans. It's kind of like... So he said something like, Empedocles, wretched, completely wretched, keep your hands away from beans. I'm telling you, man, don't do it. These guys are on to something. They're putting chemicals in the beans, man. They're turning the freaking Greeks gay. But he comes up with an interesting idea of exile, which I never saw from any other philosopher up until this point. And so he says something like, from the Greeks, I mean, those who are divinely exiled are neither in Zeus nor in Hades. And so limbo is something like a form of exile.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I wrote it, but it was actually, that was kind of cool. Oh yeah, I did write it. Whoever pollutes himself by committing crimes, murdering, and breaking oaths must wander very far from the blessed ones, as in the gods. As a result, the aether guides them to the sea spits them on the earth towards the sun's rays, and the rays back into a whirlpool of the aether, stuck in a vicious cycle. So it's almost like
Yeah, you know
each
what that
aspect of the
sounds
world
like?
doesn't want you. Huh?
You know what that sounds like?
What?
Jonah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Really?
Yeah, Jonah and the whale. Jonah is sent out by God. Jonah hides and breaks his oath. He descends into the sea in a whale. Gets spit out on the shore, and the ray of the sun was getting hot, and so God gave Jonah a tree.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh man, I haven't read much, so I'm kind of falling behind with these things. But this is so interesting. And so what happens after the tree? Does he go back into?
No, then he goes to Nineveh and tells them to repent, and they do, and they turn to God.
Okay, so he escapes exile. He's like, all right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So apparently, if he didn't do that, he'll be sent back to God, and then God will send him back to the sea,
Yeah, I guess so.
according to Empedocles, at least. Whirlpools of the aether, stuck in a vicious cycle. And he says each element hates them when they receive them. And then he says that he's one of them. He says he's an exile from the divine and wanderer, I who relied on the insane strife. Okay. Other than that, the rest of the poetry is kind of like, eh. But this one was cool. He made like one hit, and then the rest of the songs sucked.
Just a real quick clarifier. Jonah gets the terebinth, or he said God gives him the tree after he's given the message to the Ninevites,
Oh, okay.
and then God kills the tree the next day, and he's like, "Look, why are you sad about this tree?" I don't remember the whole story, but he's God kills the tree to show Jonah a lesson.
This could be you. All right, and so then there's this guy Anaxagoras. He's quite important, actually. So he's after the Parmenides people and some other guys that are not that interesting. I think he's also in Italy, if I'm not wrong. Let me check. No, Ionia. Okay. There are these Ionian islands which are close to Turkey. There's the Ionian Sea, which is close to Albania. It's not close to Turkey. I don't know why they named it after the islands, but the islands are not there, which is so stupid. But whatever. And so you have these Ionian islands next to Turkey, and it's a lot of the philosophy is from there, and then it travels to Italy, and from Italy back to the islands, and from the islands back to Italy. And so it's like kind of like this ping pong. And then Athens is in the middle, and Athens gets it at the very end. Up until this point, they're not that interested for some reason. Or they might be, but they don't produce any philosophers. And then afterwards, I guess the city gets richer or something. And then people start moving into Athens, and then it becomes popular. Okay, so this Anaxagoras guy says, predicted that the heavens will shake and part of it will detach, and correctly predicted that a comet would fall. I think symbolically it also makes sense, because I think that's what was happening to Greek culture. It's kind of like the heavens shaking and fragmenting, basically. And then correctly predicted rain, that some house would fall down, a solar eclipse, earthquake, yada yada. So he's kind of like, this is a Ionian thing. They always keep predicting things like Thales. They predict like eclipses, they predict earthquakes, stuff like that. Was it? Hold on. I'm sorry. I shouldn't do switcheroos like this. I think it was this Empedocles guy, the guy whose poetry I didn't like, but yeah. Okay, so there's a tradition that he performs magic. And one time when the Ethesian winds came, and they became destructive to the crops, he took the skins of donkeys and made bags out of them. Then he stretched these out around the hill and the headlands in order to catch the wind. And then that's how the wind stopped. Weird tradition. And then he was called the Windstopper.
Oh, well.
There you go. So
At least you
anyways,
got
if there's wind... Mhm.
Reminds
a
me
bunch
of
of
my
donkeys?
childhood.
Oh yes, catching the wind. Windstopper. I have like titles for all the right. Well, I have the names, and then I wrote Empedocles. So Empedocles the Windstopper, because I thought it sounded cool. And then I read his poetry, and I was like, "This is so boring," and then I removed it. Dethroned.
It's a bad stopping of wind. Boringness.
Boring moves. A bag. A bag made out of donkey skins. There's something to it, probably, but okay. And
Oh,
either way,
could I add something?
please.
I was reading the story of Saul, and in it, his father is actually he's
Gay.
a tender to donkeys.
Oh.
And in the church fathers, there's a couple different interpretations for the donkeys, because his father's donkeys get loose, and then Saul is basically trying to find his father's donkeys, and he never finds them. They actually just return home, and I don't know. Some of the church fathers, I think they say that the donkeys represent stubbornness, and then others say that they're the passions, and so there's just an inability to deal with what's below. But that's it.
Donkeys are also non-kosher, right? They should be.
I have no idea.
No, for sure they are, because there's this iconic tradition of the birth of Christ, and he's in the manger, but there's always two animals with him, and there's an ox and there's a donkey, and the ox is a kosher animal, and the other one is the non-kosher. And it's literally the Jews and the Gentiles. One way of looking at it. Also, clean and unclean, heaven and earth, yada yada. But he's the joiner of the Jews and the Gentiles. So there's something with donkeys and Gentiles, maybe, if that applies there. I don't know, but unclean animals, non-kosher. But it makes sense. Like the lower things, the earthly things, doesn't have control of that. Yeah. And then there's something that Matthieu said with the donkey jaws for the puzzle thingy. No idea. But
Oh, his updated version where he put,
the name of the queen,
yeah.
Candace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Candace Owen. I have no idea. I just saw that the lock said Inri, which is Jesus.
Yeah, so if it's a jawbone, bones of deceased animals were considered unclean. And so when Samson was killing with a jawbone, he was doing it out of rebellion because he as a Nazarene, he wasn't allowed to touch the dead.
Ah. So you are right. Oh, that's you're a genius. So he's using death to destroy death.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that explains everything then. Yeah, because well, that part at least. Because the whole point of Christ is he uses death to bring renewal.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. Samson is like uses death to destroy death. Oh, he should have just donkey jaw, unclean animal, jaw breaks food down. Could have thought about it that way. Fragments food. Okay. Because he kills himself to kill more of his enemies. So he figures out that he can join with death and then somehow use it. But then he does it for revenge, to get rid of his enemies. And then Christ does it to save his enemies. Because if
Yeah.
you save your enemies, no more enemies. But okay. Oh. Okay, so the key is basically the Egyptian queen, the lock of Jesus, I guess, which the idea is like turning the I think the idea is that Solomon needs to figure out that you're supposed to use death for renewal and not death
Yeah,
for
it's
cosmic.
it's like what we talk about with double inversion. I mean, so Candace, her recent actions are causing a lot of blowback. But what should be done instead is double inverting Candace's insanity and using it as a sort of weapon or tool rather than attacking Candace. There's a way to utilize it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened with Pepe. So Pepe, the proper way to handle with Pepe was to do a double inversion, which was rather than be mad at the cartoon, because being mad at it just proves that the accusations are true. Instead, what you do is you adopt a Pepe to attack the Pepe. It's like a Pokemon battle. And that's the best way to do a double inversion. So, if the reason why he used it in his puzzle meme is because of the role the feminine has as like a contender or the friendly adversary.
Okay.
So the queen. So originally it was the Queen of Sheba, right, going to Solomon. Well, the Queen of Sheba comes to Solomon because she believed that, or she didn't believe, she had heard Solomon was wealthy. So the only reason you would bring a gift to another king is to entice them to do like a trade. Like, I'll give you this stuff for a favor. Well, the problem was that Solomon was far more wealthy than the Queen of Sheba realized. And so there wasn't any leverage that she could pull on Solomon because he already had all the wealth. More wasn't going to get him anything. So instead what happens is she gives Solomon the wealth, but then she also receives some, if I remember correctly. Like Solomon gives her wealth also, so it's like an even trade. Queen of Sheba was bringing something to manipulate Solomon, but instead Solomon just turns it back and gives it back to her.
Mm-hmm.
And so since Christ is on the lock, Candace is saying that she's a Christian, she's doing the Christian things. Well, how about we give you the true Christ, which is a key?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a double inversion, is what he's talking about.
Yeah, that makes sense because in some sense, she's also talking about the Kabbalah and stuff like that. It's like the Kabbalah, sorry.
Right.
It's kind of like, I mean, aiming at the right direction somehow, I guess, but you have to understand heaven and earth first before you get to this is like hardcore. It's not like it's like learning C2 language even though you barely speak A1.
Yeah.
But okay. Okay, so you're helping me realize something here, actually. So I guess the story of Solomon is him using death to increase death. Because if he uses death to destroy death, then it increases, I suppose, necessarily.
Yeah, because he is not blemish free because he's not a perfect being like Christ was.
Yes, but no, see what I mean? It's like that pattern. Because, so even when he kills his enemies, he kills himself, but so he uses death
Yes,
but
yes.
then it increases death, and that increase of death he just applies on his enemies, and that's how they die. And I
Yeah,
think
that's why
the
he keeps
666
getting in worse
gold,
situations.
right? And I think Matthew talked about this in a recent interview with the 666 and the gold from the ships. So he goes with this international trade, and so opens up to all the foreigners in order to receive as much death as possible. Let's put it this way: lower things, to increase the amount of lower things, to increase the amount of wealth. And so it's constant increase of wealth and death, but that leads to
Yeah.
confusion. But it's
Right.
what he figured out. And then Christ is like actually that, but instead of for death, using it for renewal. Which is
Right.
interesting because it's not for life, it's for renewal. It sort of implies that you screw up again, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting thought.
The work's not done because there's the second coming, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that part, right? Okay. I was gonna go. Yes. So it's almost like Queen of Sheba, I guess. She's giving the lock to Solomon, and Jesus is supposed to be the key, but I guess in this case he's like the lock, because he's a lower thing when it comes to the Jews. They see him as a idol, right? Something like a question, like a problem. And so from their perspective, he's a lock. And I think Matthew's point is that if come again?
I'm thinking, wasn't the lock? What was written on the lock?
INRI, INRI.
Yeah.
What was written on the cross.
Right.
Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews.
Well, yeah. So that's
Which is
okay.
Here's the interesting
That's a
thing.
title. Yeah.
Go
ahead.
Sorry. I think there's the way I think Jesus is supposed to apply to the Jews is kind of like a more purifying, strict figure, if that makes sense. I don't think it's as liberal as it is to the Gentiles. I think it'd be something a bit stricter in comparison.
Yes.
Right? Because it says Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews, like a
Yes.
Nazarene. And so you're going to have this people who don't touch death, or at least stay away from it. And then you'd have the Gentiles, who are basically deaf in a sense that they're the opposite of the Jews. And so they're supposed to use the Gentiles for renewal. And I think what that leads to is everybody basically becoming ultimately quote unquote the Jews. In the sense that they renew the Gentiles until everybody sort of becomes part of the same structure.
Yeah, because the idea. No, yeah. Trying to figure out where to start. Messianic Jews will still adhere to kosher, and they'll adhere to some of the other law from the law. They'll still adhere to some of it, but they don't believe that the sacrificial system is still implemented, because Christ is the fulfillment of that. And so when you're talking about that Christ is it's a little bit of a stricter figure, because they're still adherent to the covenant with God that he gave Abraham and Moses. That covenant is still in place, and so they observe it. While the Gentiles, like Paul says, the Gentiles are not under that covenant. We don't have to worry about kosher. We're not under that law system because we don't have that covenant with God.
Mm-hmm.
Which is all of what Romans 9 and 11 talk about.
What is that? What did I say?
Romans 9 is talking about the lineage of the covenant through Abraham. And then in 11, 10 is a lot of reciting the Old Testament to prove that the lineage is through Abraham. But then 11 is where it talks about the Jews have been cut off from the trunk of the tree, and the Gentiles have been grafted on to make the Jews jealous. But don't
don't get prideful.
Yeah, don't get prideful, because as they were cut off, you can be cut off, and one day they'll be grafted back in.
So I remember I had a conversation in the comments with Matthieu, and he was talking about something like, I don't remember actually, but it had something to do with pigs. And then I sort of wanted to ask, like, what do you think about the whole thing with the Jews? But I don't know how to phrase it. So I said something like about pigs, which might not be the best idea, but whatever. Something like pigs and kosher and whatnot. How to make it kosher, I guess. I don't remember the question. It's somewhere in the book, I guess. And then he says, what's supposed to happen, it's supposed to die naturally and then be burned on the altar and then ascend. And that's how basically pigs should learn how to fly. And then and then he had the story. I remember why. Yeah, he had this story about how I guess some donkeys like walking around or something like that. And he meets Elijah, because of course he does. And like Elijah is, I don't know, I don't remember the full conversation. And basically he's trying to say that pigs have to learn to ruminate or something like that for the world to be saved. And it's like, when would they learn that? When pigs learn to fly, something like that.
Yeah,
Okay,
pigs are the Gentiles in this situation.
Yeah, I thought it was the Jews, but kind of as of today, I'm starting to think it's actually the Gentiles. It's actually the Christians.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Here's right. It's non-kosher, and so
Right.
I saw a video today of Jonathan. It's like about not mixing linen and wool. One of those clips or something. I keep rewatching those because they always have those things, and then they'll sometimes throw you something you've missed. And this is one of them. And so he says, no, he talked about this like pigs, but there's some deeper Jewish thinkers that think that the pigs are supposed to, even though they're non-kosher, they're kind of, because they have the split hooves, it's like they're trying to show that they're pure, and then they're gonna come back. I was like, where the hell is this? You see, getting this from? And it's like, I went on ChatGPT and I looked for some midrash or something that talked about this, and I haven't read it fully, but there's supposed to be there's supposed to be some midrash about Esau, from Jacob and Esau, and how they talk about Esau as a pig, but that some vision about pigs and pigs grazing or not grazing, something like that. I don't remember it. Oh yeah, pigs grazing, yes, which they don't. They don't eat grass. They eat other stuff, right?
Yeah.
And right. And then the rabbi was trying to figure out what the vision is or something like that. And I didn't read the whole thing. It kind of went off topic, it felt like. But I'm guessing what the idea is that Esau is kind of seen as a pig, and on one day he'll return and he'll be accepted back into Jerusalem. And so meaning he'll become purified again. And then that there's supposed to be a time period when the unpurified things become purified.
Yeah.
And so then I started thinking, and it kind of seems like, from their perspective, the pig was Jesus. Now, for our perspective, like, no way. But from their perspective, it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like they killed a pig. But then the pig is supposed to come back, and now he's flying. And I thought, all right, that's probably the second coming. I was like, that's the crazy part. And I think, I'm not sure, me personally, so I don't quite believe in a second incarnation. I think it's going to be something like, even in the Gospels, it said something like he'll come from the heavens and then from the clouds with glory.
Well, yeah, it's not gonna be another incarnation. Christ is already carnate. He will return.
Yeah, right. So it's kind of like a remembrance, I guess.
Yeah, and the narrative is the
Figuring
same, where Christ ascends. The last things that people saw of Christ is him ascending, and then we won't see him again until he's descending.
So he's supposed
So
to
in a
descend?
way, yeah, he descends. You hear the trumpet sound, and then Christ descends from the heavens in Revelation.
So what does that mean?
Well, I think that's what Matthew's talking about, pigs flying. Is that if from the Jews, Christ was the Gentile or the pig, the outsider, right? The unclean. Right now, the pig is flying.
Okay, so, all right, so when Christ is born, so it's almost like
Yeah.
Word becomes flesh. Isn't that God lowering himself?
Oh, yeah. I think it's orthodoxy that holds to the idea that Christ incarnating is a condescension.
Well, sort of is by definition because flesh.
Yeah, but also there's two key things that bolster this idea. One is the transfiguration, and the other one, well, actually, there's three. So you have the transfiguration, you have Christ in Gethsemane praying that cup be taken from him. But then you have Christ doesn't know the day or the hour of the second coming. Only the Father does. So there's a limitation in Christ. I think it's up for debate on whether it's a willing rejection of knowledge when Christ incarnated, or it's it's a little messy when you get into theology. But Christ doesn't know something that the Father knows.
All right, so I'm trying to figure out if that Christ descending from the heavens means reincarnation or something.
No, because Christ is still in his body.
Incarnate.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
he's just not here.
What I'm also thinking is kind of like a movement towards theosis, which is kind of orthodox, I know, but it's like maybe in some sense, this push for a lot of people suddenly to try to become like Christ is also that movement towards that.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah.
And I think it's sort of supposed to awaken out of a sheer crisis of what the world is going through. Okay, either way. So, with this in mind, with the Esau thing and the pig, I think he's the. You should know this probably. But Jacob is the older brother.
Oh, is that a question?
Yes, I'm not sure.
No, Jacob's the
Who's
younger.
older? Jacob's the younger.
Yeah.
I wonder why Esau is seen like the pig.
That has to do with before what?
No, I'm listening.
Oh, that has to do before, at the beginning of the story, where it said before they were born, God hated Esau but loved Jacob.
It says so explicitly. Okay,
Yeah.
but he hated Jacob. Oh wait, all right.
Yeah, it says it blatantly like that. There's a lot of debate on that.
Because Esau, then, if they in Midrash, if they compare him to a pig, then he's basically the unclean one, and then Jacob is like the Gentile.
Yeah,
or the Jews.
which is even more odd because Jacob's the one who acts like the unclean.
Okay. So it says here, like, this is the first page of Matthew's book, right? The quote. And it says, Esau says, I have enough, my brother. Let that which is yours be yours. And then Jacob says, Please take my gift because God has shown me grace, and I also have enough. And then Esau says, let us take our journey together then, and I will go before you. And then Jacob says, I will journey according to the pace of the flock and the children until I come unto you, my Lord, unto Zion. Unto Sire. My bad. Close enough. And it's kind of like what the Jews and the Gentiles are supposed to be like. And I think that's what he's trying to. It's like, I think this book, man, people keep saying, like, why does he write anything about Christianity? And his excuse for something like, I don't want to write about Christ until I fully understand them. And I think that's part of the reason. I think the main reason is actually this book is so supposed to be meant. It's meant to be read by Jews. I think his biggest.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right, for sure. I know, because he can't. If you listen for that, you'll notice that he keeps talking about it. He can't help himself. But he's
it's true.
right? He keeps trying to figure out why they're not Christian, and that's his exile. And he knows something that he's not revealing fully. But I think, in some sense, personally, I think that Peterson is right when he says that our world is built out of Judeo-Christian values.
Yeah.
Except I think that's the problem, because it's admixture. It's not supposed to be mixed. It's supposed if Paul makes this thing where St. Paul makes this thing where he separates the Jews from the Gentiles completely, the Christians from the Jews. And then a lot of the no more laws for the Christians, I think has to do with this. Because the idea is if they're completely separate from each other, they'll become opposites of each other. And if they're opposites, they won't mix. And if they're opposites and they don't mix, then it's like rumination. They have to unite. You have to find a higher thing. And what Paul is doing is like, Adam and Eve, right.
They both had to be human, but they have their differences.
Exactly what's happening. Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Right. And he's like, and I think he did that because now we have to solve the problem. He made sure that the problem won't be prolonged forever or confused. No, you have to solve it. Otherwise, end of the world or whatever. Massive theory.
Hold on.
And then.
Okay. I think I just cracked a little bit of it. I think the reason why Matthew put a lock in the middle, but man, maybe not. Maybe I'm stretching, but what we're talking about is often called the Jewish problem. Right, but the emphasis is on the problem. I mean, a riddle is just a problem. So is a lock.
Yes, exactly.
So if you're right, he might be struggling or addressing this Jewish problem.
Well, I think what he's trying to say is that it's a Judeo-Christian problem in some sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Right. So we're stuck, both of us. Nobody's winning in this scenario, by the way.
Right.
Right. Even let's say you look at Jewish elites, for instance, at the top. It's not most Jews. It's a select few who, by the way, mostly are atheists anyways, and transhumanists, a lot of them today. And it's those guys that are winning, and then the rest of them have to work at McDonald's or something. It's not like everybody's winning, and everybody else is also suffering from the same problem with the architecture and the music and the meaning crisis and lack of relationships and communities. It's not like they're in a different boat; they're in the same boat. So it's a problem. So we had this established Christian identity, but it's as if the problem was from the beginning. It's as if they were supposed to figure out what Christ is about and then figure out how to integrate. And
okay. Here's another thing to add to your puzzle is that every time a sort of outside figure shows up to help the Israelites in the Old Testament, they are associated with Christ. Melchizedek, the three strangers who visit Abraham, and it kind of is revealed that it's God or Christ. So this idea of Christ from the outside coming to the Jews is a pattern in the Old Testament.
Yes. It's also
Yeah.
they have like the firstborn, and then they have brothers or sisters.
Yeah.
Firstborn always dies. Can't figure it out. And then the other guy looks at him, is like, looks like what he did killed him. I won't do this.
Yeah.
So it's never the person himself repenting. It's always next of kin. Something like that.
Yeah.
But the firstborn always has to suffer the consequences. Right? Moses never makes it into paradise. That type of stuff.
Yeah.
But then some other successor, somebody younger, let's say, something like that usually, from the other side can look at the problem and then integrate it. And then I think the idea of it, Matthieu, is like he's trying to say that in Christianity, the whole point is that the firstborn fixes the problem instead of having to die all the time. And the way he does it is he dies, but he returns.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of the idea, yeah? So, in some sense, I think what you're saying is what's supposed to happen. So, him returning is also him coming from the outside, but this time to save him.
Yeah.
And so he did save the Jewish enemies, which is basically enemies in a sense like people not following your purpose in that broad a sense. So he saved all the Gentiles, essentially. Not every single person, but in a sense, it's open up to every Gentile. But then the center kind of didn't get saved. So now it's kind of the idea is to save the center. And the center is dying. I think what happened after Christ and after the temple was destroyed, Judaism started dying out. Like they became prominent merchants and
or they converted to Christianity.
Or they converted, but those who didn't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so if your entire culture basically, by the way, they were very restrictive with trade, besides maybe King Solomon, but they were very careful with how they traded, and being a trader was seen as something lowly. It's not bad, but it was bottom of the hierarchy because what the trader does is he takes things meaningful. So all the products they sell are things that are meaningful and exchanging it for money, for potential.
Yeah, to the foreigners.
Exactly, and to foreigners, yeah. But you're taking potentiality and you're just making it into potential.
Yeah.
Okay, so if that class starts ruling your culture, your identity is dead. Because if those people get in power, what they'll do is they'll take everything that's important for that place and turn it into money. And that's exactly what's happening in today's world. And it seems like that's what was happening to their religion. And then it's like when Christianity integrated them, it wasn't just that they were integrating a religion that was opposed to it in terms of theology, but also a religion that was slowly dying. So it's almost like eating poison.
Well, that's the Kabbalah is like a reaction to that.
Yeah, but it's also from the same time period as the Renaissance. So it's from that period when there's the breakdown of Christianity as well. I think it kind of...
Okay.
Right? I mean, maybe you mean something else, but that's what I see at least. It's a very moving towards enlightenment and modern world type of thing. It wasn't written that... Like, there's this sort of like older Kabbalah, which is kind of like... I forgot the name of the book. It's something in Hebrew. Which kind of tries to figure out the world through numbers, which is kind of interesting, like Pythagorean, I guess. And then there's this later tradition from the Renaissance onwards, and then that's kind of like an addition. And that seems to be more like an aspect of the breakdown of the world that's already breaking down anyways. Okay, and so this problem already started, and then at one point Christianity integrated the Jews, but it was going to happen anyways. And then now we're stuck in this problem. And we're stuck in the problem until we sort of both unite. And the Orthodox Church has this position that problem's basically solved. the Jews just have to figure out that they're basically living in an illusion and convert to Christianity. And I don't think that's solving the problem.
That sounds like Orthodox to me.
But but sometimes you look at like people like Saint John Chrysostom. He's a gold mouth, they call him. That's Chrysostom, right? And he's a very important saint for the Orthodox. He's the one who made our liturgy. Well, there used to be more liturgies, to be honest, but it sort of got globalized and unified over the course of time. And what he wrote stuff about Judaism and the Jews, and he was completely against them. Calls them satanic. All of them are the synagogue of Satan, and then calls their type of rituals and whatnot theater, yada yada, and that the Christians shouldn't be confused about their idolatry because just because they have the books like the Torah and whatnot doesn't mean that they're godly or something like that. But now I'm thinking, I could be wrong, but I'm thinking that what he was also doing is he was following what Paul was doing, and he was trying to exacerbate the difference
Yeah.
so it doesn't get confused and merged. Now the unfortunate side effect is a lot of death and people getting killed and whatnot, unfortunately. But I think that's what they were trying to go for.
Yeah.
That's what I see it as. And the moment they get integrated, it's around the period of Charlemagne. That's what I trace in history. Charlemagne accepts them en masse. A few people tried, but he does it successfully. He does it mostly because he wants usury. Christians forbade usury, and he's a Christian. But all these wars are costing money, and it's like you can't conquer Europe with no money. So he gets them in, and then gives them something like religious freedom, so no more forced conversions on them or something like that, and ability to trade. They were still restricted, but not completely. So he can get the money, and that's the uniting with an opposing religion under usury. That's as bad as it gets, I think, because usury is basically turning renewal into death. And so it's the, if you see what I mean, because
Yep.
it's that, yeah, it's kind of difficult to explain why I can't, for me at least, to articulate it. But it's like charging interest on a loan. It's kind of like the profit you're making from that loan. It's kind of like the guy's already in debt, and then from that you're trying to get even more debt, even because money is death in the sense that it's potential, it's breakdown. I see death if you just see death as fragmentation, right? So it's reunited with them under usury, which is the worst decision possible. But and then immediately what happens, which is so hilarious, but it's so sad at the same time, is they get high positions of power, some of their elites, and they become advisors and bankers. Well, they didn't have banks back then, but something like people, prominent loaners, let's put it this way. John Chrysostom, the architect of anti-Semitism. Of course, they'll say that. And also, what was I going to say? Whatever, prominent positions of power, essentially. They didn't immediately get titles yet and whatnot, but super powerful, super rich, and then in advisory positions and scholarly positions, intellectual influence. And then at the same time, you immediately get bishops that just hate them. And these bishops start writing and talking about how these people are satanic. You brought in the plague. Like these people are not, it's not like the other pagans. This is the worst thing you could have done to our country and our empire. It's like an immediate anti-Semitism. Well, anti-Jewishness. I don't like that term Semitism, whatever. But anti-Jewishness immediately. And it's so funny. And then we go through this prolonged periods of these people getting in high positions of power, and then sort of it's having a high secret influence over the government. Secret in a sense that it's it's explicit in that sense, that it's not through law, but it's through influence. Sometimes, which is interesting because it's not the church, but it's these guys, or it's a mixture between both. And then long periods of that, and mostly peace in the empire, and then short periods of just genocide. People getting pissed, blaming everything on them, especially because of financial problems, because of all the usury, and then they just go from village to village, just killing people. And it's like we're stuck in this cycle. So long periods of them being in high positions, and then short periods of just outbursts and anger and total destruction. And I think Jews in poverty always get the shortest end of the stick. Well, there's not the shortest, but whatever. Short end of the stick. You see what I mean? It's like both unliked, seen as the problem, but none of the privileges, none of the you don't get even you don't even get to be part of any conspiracy where you're just sitting there. Unfortunate. Oh boy. Yeah, it's interesting. It follows the same patterns as today. And I think that started the breakdown of the Christian identity. And I think that started the pendulum swing. It started as a competition between the Jews and the Christians. And then the more it went, the more that just fighting and competition spread everywhere else. To the point where now it's competition between left and right, man and women, as many categories as possible, right?
Yeah.
The person against themselves, which is kind of like a totally occupied everything. Okay, I said all this because I think that's what he sees as a problem, Matthieu, from what I understand so far. And so until this problem gets solved, we're basically stuck in this pendulum swing.